Good morning, everybody. We'll be getting started in a little bit. We'll be getting started in just a little bit. And good morning to Susie and Jenny. Jenny, you ladies are the first ones. Yes. Haha. Along with Al Koss as well. Yes. Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. We are in the month of May already. It doesn't feel like we should be in May already. And in Wisconsin, at least in this area, instead of having a focus on flowers, we still have a focus on rain. Lots of rain. Matter of fact, this next couple of days, we really have 4 or 5 days of consecutive downpour. So we're getting our showers that are supposed to bring May flowers later than expected, much later than expected. Well, it's great to have all of you here. We obviously did not do a live stream on this week. I just had too much going on. I sometimes have to look at my phone to know what day of the week it is. If you can imagine, it's just nonstop, which is a wonderful thing to have, but it does get a little bit disorienting sometimes. And the focus of the camera right now is on one of 2 machines that Jeannine from the small community of Lena, Wisconsin, brought to the workshop. And I say it all the time, every sewing machine deserves the opportunity for greatness. Every sewing machine deserves the opportunity for greatness. So here we've got a model that you don't see very often on this channel. It's a Singer model 6212C. 6212C. And there are some interesting things about this machine that I will actually push out to you to try to guess what they might be. The first being, where do you think this machine was made and approximately when? So I'm kind of hitting you with two questions out of the gate here. Where was this machine made? Approximately when was this machine made? So again, it's a model 6212C. It would have been preceded by the Singer 6202. In fact, you can see they actually share the same manual. And this became a pretty standard practice for a lot of the makers, where they would take one manual and it would cover multiple machines. It was a lot cheaper to do it that way as far as a production cost in generating those manuals. Thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of manuals. If you add several machines into that one manual, it's going to ultimately save you money, isn't it? So the machine that we're looking at, though, is this 6212C. And I'm just curious if anyone might want to guess where it was made, when it was made, etc. And we haven't seen Dr. Singer for a while. It's like he's been down in Florida on vacation, hanging out with Emma and hanging out with Madeline and hanging out with a number of our other friends that live in Florida. He's got a little bit of a tan if you look real close on his face, but he burns easily, so he generally tries to stay out of the sun. But this machine will be fun to demonstrate today, I think, and it'll be fun for us to discover more about it, because we don't see these machines very often. A lot of them have been lost, destroyed, disposed of, recycled. And so it's great to find a customer like Jeannine that really values a vintage, or let me say this, values a quasi vintage sewing machine like this. And we'll zero in more on the particulars of this machine and what it can do shortly. So Al Koss is jumping on it, hoping not to go to summer school like the rest of you, and right out of the gate is throwing some guesses out there. Throwing some pretty solid guesses out there. Just going to look at something real quick here. And I will share with you, and I don't think I'm letting any cat out of the bag or dog out of the bag or parrot out of the bag or anything else out of the bag. If anyone wants to, and this may have already happened because I miss so much in the live stream chat. I miss a lot. The leaders have to get me up to speed all the time. But if no one knew it, Al Koss, who is a regular at these live streams and such a welcome regular, is actually known also in some circles as Alex. So we can either call Al Koss, or we can call Al Koss Alex. And I know this because we exchanged a couple of text messages not too terribly long ago. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't know your name was Alex. So, yeah, it's great to have Alex, a.k.a. Al Koss, in the live stream again today. And Alex and his family, they do business in the sewing space, doing different things. And they work with a company, looking it up right now. They work with a company called Wawak. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's Wawak, Wawak. And they order a lot of stuff from Wawak. And Alex reached out and said, hey, I love what you do. I love what you do for the Cow Country family. We would like to contribute something, and we're going to be sending you some goodies in the mail from Wawak. And at first I'm like, wow, what? And then Alex went on to explain that's apparently a like distribution company, a supply company that does a lot of things sewing related. And some of you out there might already be familiar with Wawak. I never heard of him before, but soon I'll have the opportunity of showing you what Alex and his family sent from Wawak. And then we'll see how we can put it into use in live streams and other stuff like that. So thank you. Thank you to Alex, aka Alcas. Thank you to Alex. Thank you to Wawak. It's fun to say. It's just fun to say Wawak. It's fun to say Wawak. And we'll see what ends up coming in the mail. But again, thank you so much. So many thoughtful people, so many generous people in the Cow Country family. And I'm grateful for each and every one of you. I truly am. Okay. Give me just a second here. I'm going to say some good mornings, and then we'll keep marching. So I've already said good morning to Susie from Minnesota, our master cow country hat maker, well, and also master gardener too, by the way. And Susie generally is always the first one in class. I haven't even clicked final button yet to go live. And apparently, as I'm going through the different windows, the different screens, typing in all my information, get ready for a live stream, apparently it sends a broadcast message out to anyone that's subscribed. Hey, Scott's going live. Get ready, get ready. Well, you don't even have to say get ready even once to Susie from Minnesota, and she's already like that, on it like a bonnet, in there like swimwear. She's always ready to get ready and get going as part of the leadership team within the live streams. And Emma is a close second, even when she's at work. She finds little windows of opportunity without taking away from her job. Finds little windows of opportunity to jump in and to spend a little bit of time with the family, even at work. So, a dedicated group of leaders that I'm so blessed to have on my team, so grateful to have on my team. And it's always great to come together as a family, isn't it? It's always great to come together as a family. Well, and I've already said good morning. I did a lot of blah, blah, blah about Al Koss, aka Alex, and the goodies that he and his family the workshop from Wawak. I love it. I might be saying Wawak all day long, and people will be wondering what the heck is a Wawak. It sounds like something from Star Wars. Star Wars, yeah, something like that. With all the other aliens, it's a Wawak. You don't you know anything? Yeah. So great to have Alex here. Great. What else? And I've already acknowledged Emma. And Emma, again, is incredibly devoted to what we do, even when she's at work. And it's so great to have her here as well. And also welcome to Candido, my good friend from the great state of New York. Yeah, New York. And also good morning to my dear friend Christine from the country of Canada. Yeah. Or something like that. She does it better than I do. Who else? I think that's everybody. I think that's everyone so far. And again, whether it's a Tuesday morning or whether it's a Saturday morning, everybody has busy lives. And I'm so grateful for folks. I'm so grateful for folks taking time out of their busy day, their busy morning, to join us for these live streams. It really is great to come together as a family. It's great to share things, to learn things, to make new friendships as well. And it's great also to recognize the greatness in a variety of different machines. Just give you a little behind the scenes glimpse on what's happening right now. Where am I focused right now? A lot of directions, a lot of directions. We're obviously going to be focusing on this 6212C. And you know what? Alex is spot on. Alex is spot on. And I believe Emma also jumped in with the specifics as well on this machine right over here. It was in fact made in the beautiful country of Brazil. And any of you that know anything about anything know that we have a regular, we haven't seen her for a little while. I hope she's okay, but we have a regular, maybe more than one. The leaders know better than I do, but we have at least one, Christine, right? Christine is from Brazil. And between Susie and Emma and a number of others have jumped in using Google Translate to make her feel welcome whenever she steps into one of these live streams from Brazil, because she speaks Portuguese and there's a little bit of a step over from English to Portuguese back and forth. And I think we've had another person, I'm pretty sure we've had another person or persons from Brazil as well. So we're going to get a chance to spend a little bit of time today with a machine that was made in Brazil. And a lot of these machines from this early 6000 series Singers, they were made in two different places. When you get into this machine and you dig into it and you get into the guts and glory of the machine, you discover that a lot of these machines, the body was made in Brazil, but the motor was made somewhere else. Where do you think the motors were made for some of these 6212s and 6202 models? From, both of you were right, Emma and Alex, from the 1980s. So where do you think those motors were made? I'm curious if anyone knows, uh, if anyone can guess where these were maybe made. Yeah. So a lot of collaborative efforts coming into play for some of these machines as they're putting them together. And you know what? It's nothing new. Singer back in the day, way back in the day, did a lot of the same stuff between the machines that were manufactured at Elizabethport, New Jersey, and then were finished in Canada, where Christine is from, around St. John's, Quebec, that area. And others were started over in Kilbowie, Scotland, and then they were finished at another Singer plant stateside. So it's not a new thing. It's not an old thing. It's just a thing where there always was, as manufacturers look at ways to cut cost or to be more efficient, they sometimes would spread the business out almost like an assembly line, and they would move it from one plant to another to finally get that finished machine product. So I'll be curious to see if anybody gets an accurate guess on that. And it looks like Alcost, aka Alex, is saying Vietnam. Not Vietnam. No, not Vietnam. That's a great guess. That's a brilliant guess. But it actually is not Vietnam. It's not Vietnam. And I've shown you one of these other machines similar to this before that was made in Brazil. And then I showed you either a picture or something of the motor. And everyone was like, really? What? No way. Are you serious? So, yeah, you never know. You never know. All right, that's the official bell. So if anyone shows up after this, if anyone shows up after the bell is rung, they've got to go to one of the moderators, one of the leadership team members, and get a late pass. Otherwise, you get demerits, you get points against you, and worse yet, you have to go to summer school. No one wants to go to summer school. No one. All right. Let's see. Any other guesses? Any other guesses? It looks like to Candido from New York and Christine got a deal going. They're looking for a particular white sewing machine. See what I'm talking about? When the family comes together, the family takes care of the family. So now we have one of our friends from New York going to be collaborating with one of our dear friends from Canada, and they're going to be working out a deal, kind of eyeballing and keeping an eye open for a particular sewing machine model. It makes it so much easier, doesn't it, when you've got friends that you can look to and rely on, and that can help you out when you're looking for a particular sewing machine, right? Very cool. Okay, so no one else is guessing. We got the one guess from Alex, and that's it. So where a number of these motors were made for the 6212, 6212C, and earlier the 6202 was France, the beautiful country of France, where our friend Olga is from. Olga, again, used to serve as a moderator, similar to what Christine and Susie and Emma and Bill and others do. And as I had shared recently in a live stream, I met Olga and our Susie that just passed away, known also as Sunny. Sunny, that recently passed away, her first job as a moderator on Facebook was to help out some lady from Paris, France. It turned out to be Olga, and Olga eventually, because she fell in love with us and we fell in love with her, she eventually stepped on board as a moderator and was answering questions for people around the world alongside of Bill and Susie and Hans and myself. That was kind of our team back in the day back in the day. And, things change. We get new moderators, others have to step away for whatever reason. But those memories and those cherished memories of all those great people that have contributed to the family will never, ever be forgotten. Never be forgotten. All right. And I think I just got a text. Let's see who it is. Da, 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 da. Okay, someone said that you're having sound issues. Um, is the sound back? We usually have video issues, and now someone's saying we have sound issues. Do we have sound right now? Can someone give me feedback on whether or not we have sound? Do we have sound right now? That's weird, isn't it? We apparently had a cutout of sound, and Candido out in New York says we're good to go. Christine, I think in Canada, said we're back again. I don't know. We've never had sound issues before. And again, I'm using a fairly high quality razor, um, microphone. Originally, I was relying on the microphone that's built into the camera, and we had a lot of hit and miss with that. And now I'm relying on a microphone like this. Kind of looks like a radio. We're live on the radio. It's kind of like a radio or professional type microphone. And our sound has generally been okay. It's been really good. Our video gets weird sometimes. And again, I rely on a 5G network. I rely on a 5G network to supply these live streams. And it's possible that our 5G network could be quirky today. So if you're getting solid video and you're getting a breakup of audio, I don't know what to tell you. I don't have any control over that. So just be patient. Be patient as the 5G network hopefully is going to get stable and supply us with steady audio and steady video as well. I'm just going to turn on my phone real quick and see if I can pull up the live stream as well so I can kind of hear what's going on without a lot of backfeed, hopefully. And I'm not saying anything right now in case you're not hearing anything. Let's see what we have here. And good morning to Robin as well from the great state of Minnesota. Hopefully, y'all can hear me okay. And I'm just going to, whenever I start a live stream, I get an email telling me that the live stream is active. So I'm just going to take a look real quick.
Your lawn looks a little bit more like this. Then you should click right here and check out True Green with a local lawn expert. Check out True Green with a local lawn expert.
So I've got it open now on my phone. I've got it open now on my phone. And at least right now. I'm going to turn my volume down, but I'm getting some solid. All right, turning my volume way down. So right now, at least on my end, I've got the live stream opened up on my phone. And so I don't strain 5G network. I've got it opened up using my data. And it sounds like we're okay right now. So it may be a matter of the 5G tower that I use to drive the live streams is about a mile from my location. And it's also used by cellular carriers. So it's split between home internet and also by people that have cellular phones. Depending on the number of people that are using the tower, it may put a strain on that tower supplying the home internet users like myself, because they're going to give priority to their cellular phone users. So we may get some intermittent issues. Saturday's a busy morning, probably a lot busier than Tuesday. And so if we get some intermittent audio issues, I apologize. But right now, at least, if I turn my volume back up again. It's so weird. It's like an echo. Even Dr. Singer is laughing, and he never laughs. He grins a lot, but he never laughs. So whatever was going on. Oh, also good morning to Bill from Minnesota, also known as Mesa Group. Bill from Minnesota as well. Looks like he just joined. I'm kind of looking at the live chat on my phone real quick instead of looking over at the laptop. But for right now, it sounds like our audio has evened out. And hopefully we don't have any other technology issues. But in my area, at least in the great upper north of Wisconsin, we're not really up north. There's further stuff north than this. But at least here in Wisconsin, in this part of the country, the options as far as high-speed internet are a little bit more limited. We've got choices, obviously, but they're a little bit more limited, and the prices vary a lot. And when you're a small business owner, you got to take into account the cost of different services you need to run your business as well. So the most cost-effective thing I found so far, and Emma is actually the one that told me about it, is T-Mobile. And T-Mobile has a 5G internet supply for stuff like we do here on the live streams. So hopefully it holds out okay during the live stream and we don't have any more issues. Hopefully don't have any more issues. And it looks like Christine from Canada is looking for rain. I am going to send rain to Canada right now. There's actually rain heading towards you, Christine. Look out the window. It's heading your way very rapidly because we've had enough of it here in this part of Oconto County, north of Green Bay. We've had a ton of rain. Again, later than it's supposed to be coming. We're supposed to get all this rain in April to bring May flowers, and we've been getting it now in May. Along recently with May 1st, we got snow like I showed you on Facebook through one of those reels that I posted. So the weather's been real goofy here, and it sounds like it's dry in Canada. So we're going to send rain towards Christine straight away. Straight away. All right. So I'm going to leave my phone open just so I can kind of look at the phone, and if I get any messages that there's weird stuff happening with the sound or the video or anything else, we'll kind of grunt through it. We'll kind of grunt through it. So again, the machine that we're looking at, I'll show you around the workshop a little bit as well. The machine that we're going to be looking at primarily today is going to be this 6212C, again from the 1980s. And both Alex and Emma, if there was someone else that I missed, let me know that. But Alex and Emma both said, 1984 in that time frame. And I think that's exactly what the manual says as well on the front. Let me just take a look. Yeah, exactly right. If you look at the manual on the front, down on the bottom there in really tiny print, you can see made in Brazil, and this manual was printed in 1984. So in all likelihood, these two machines, the 6202 and the 6212, and then ultimately the 6212C, were probably made in the calendar year prior. They were probably made in 1983. And again, I wouldn't try to argue that 1983 is vintage, but it's kind of quasi vintage, isn't it? It's kind of quasi vintage, and we've had some of those newer semi vintage type machines on the channel before. Now, along with this machine that Jeannine from Lena, Wisconsin brought, she also brought a crazy contrasting machine to this Singer mechanical one. Check out this other machine that she brought. As you can see, it's a Husqvarna, and it's a Husqvarna Viking. And this is actually a model that was still made in Sweden. Crazy enough. You can see it right there. And this big old screen that I'm hoping to be able to present this machine before it goes back to her. It's all finished, but I still have to present it on the channel. But it goes back to showing that you can have people that love vintage, but also can embrace technology. And this Designer One is like a mega computerized quilting machine. And it's in stark contrast to this other machine that Jeannine brought that we're going to actually be sewing on today, this model 6212C. So, at one point, I think I was a little bit more poo-poo. On embracing the newer type machines. It was like a purist thing. It was a purist thing of, either be 100% loyal to vintage or you're not a true VSM enthusiast. I don't think I ever went to quite that extreme, but I definitely drew a stronger line on, not being fully jazzed about the newer contemporary quilting and computerized type machines. Now, with all the referrals that I'm getting from Joanne Fabrics, now known as Joanne, now that I'm getting a lot of referrals from them, and a number of those referrals are machines like the other one I just showed you, that Designer One made by Husqvarna Viking. I'm starting to recognize, and I'm starting to hold myself accountable for saying, you can't just talk the talk, Scott. You got to walk the walk. If you say every machine deserves the opportunity for greatness, that means every machine. That means a more modern computerized long arm quilting machine. And so, yeah, customers will have multiple machines, and some of them are new, very new. Some of them are semi-old, not really, really old, but semi-old. So we're going to be looking at this one from Brazil, where the motor was also made in France. and it would have come out in the 1980s. Does anyone want to try to guess what kind of, as my friend in Norway would say, Hans, and a lot of people in Europe say this as well. Anyone want to guess as to what size engine? That's why they say it. What size engine this 6212C has? What size engine do you think this 6212C has? Oh, and also good morning and welcome to Outboard Tinker 62. Outboard Tinker 62. So we've got a number of great guesses, It looks like Christine from Canada is saying, how about 1.3 amps? And Bill from Minnesota, Mesa Group, is saying, what about 0.7? Well, the correct answer is, I'm going to show you instead of telling you. I'm going to show you instead of telling you. Okay? So get ready for it. Well, hopefully you were able to read that okay. And it goes to show that it's kind of hard to nail and pinpoint sometimes what kind of engine or motor they're going to put in these machines, especially when you're looking at a kind of a light vintage machine like this from the 1980s. And there were a number of great guesses, but the final answer, as you could see, hopefully in the shot, is 0.75. So kudos to Bill and to Emma, to Susie, who all were within 0.5 of an amp of what the actual engine or power plant is on this machine. So we're looking at 0.75 amps, 0.75. That is more than enough power to get the sewing done that we're going to be doing on this machine today. More than enough power. And it is, when you look at the actual power plant on this machine, it's going to be larger than a lot of the vintage singers that we typically look at on this channel. It's going to be a bigger power plant than the 201-2, than the 1591. It's going to be a bigger power plant than a number of the Slant-O-Matic models, with the exception of the 401A. So the power plant that they put in this machine should be able to get the job done very nicely, especially after I took it through the service regimen. Now, the other machine you might have caught a glimpse of as we were looking at that contemporary Designer 1, that also was brought to the workshop by Jeannine as well from Lena, that brought this model 6212C, is I'm also in the final phases of finishing up this Montgomery Ward Treadle machine that was brought to me also by a local person by the name of Carol, and she's a retired nurse. And I'm going to be posting hundreds of pictures of what I took this machine through. Any of you that I shared privately some pictures or updates on this machine, you know that it was a rust bucket. It was just a mess. And it had varnishing so thick on it that the balance wheel would hardly even turn. The balance wheel would hardly even turn on this machine. And now that it's been, hey, good morning, guys. Now that it's been loosened up and cleaned and given some workshop magic, now yeah, I'm going to braze that presser foot up. But yeah, it's kind of, I'm not used to operating I'm going every which way but loose. So eventually I'm going to get a needle in this. I've almost got it down. I almost got it down. Sort of, not really. I am not a treadler. Oh, I am not much of a treadler. I'll have that machine going frontwards and backwards all at the same time. It takes practice. It takes practice to get a treadle machine working, but I'll do some more practicing before I live stream that machine this week. I've got several machines I'm hoping to live stream this week. So we might end up doing more than one live stream. We might end up doing one Tuesday morning and also Wednesday morning as well. So, but she is just a sweet, sweet runner now, a sweet runner. And what a pleasure to have such a diverse body of vintage type machines and other machines in the workshop at any given time. And how often do we see a Montgomery Ward like that in such gorgeous shape? All the hand polishing that I had to do on that chromium, and like I explained in one of the reels on Facebook, whenever you're working with polishing chrome or chromium finishes, you've got to be incredibly careful, because if you look at a piece of paper, like, well, we're looking at a check sideways here, but if you're looking at a piece of paper like this, as thin as that is, the chromium finish on most machines, with the exception of the ones that were made on the East Coast by Domestic that have that silver plated finish on them, it's going to be a little bit thicker. But most of them that have chromium finishes on them, that chromium finish is going to be about 1/4 the thickness of a piece of paper. And I shared that with you on that reel. It's going to be about 1/4 of the thickness of a piece of paper, chromium finishes. So you've got to be, when you're working with whatever cleaning method you're working to try to polish up that chrome, you got to be real careful, or you'll get down to that base metal before you realize it, and then you're done. Once you go through that chromium finish, there's no option but then to re-chrome it, which is a big process. And there are paints out there by Rust-Oleum that mimic the look of chrome, but it's not the same. It's more of a dead look. It's more of a dead, kind of a blunted look. So if you are taking on different projects with your vintage machines and you're looking at that chrome and it's all crudded up, it's all, it's got a combination of varnishing and crud and sometimes even rust on there as well. Be real careful, be real patient, be really methodical as you're polishing those surfaces so you don't go too deep. Because remember, again, when you look at that chrome finish, it's not as thick as the metal. The metal, base metal, is going to be, significantly thick, probably about 2 millimeters thick. The chromium finish is going to be about 1/4 the thickness of a piece of paper, that thin. So you got to be real patient. Just like when I was working on this Montgomery Ward, I had to take it in really slow steps, wipe it off, see where I was at, go back a little bit more, gently. So really be careful if you decide to take that on. Okay. Well, let's check this machine out a little bit. Let's check this machine out. I'll kind of walk you around a little bit. It's really, I think, a straightforward machine. So as we're looking at this 1980s 6212C. There we go. That's a good shot of it. Kind of walk you around the machine a little bit. Over here, we've got a couple of things happening. We've got auto buttonhole options on this control. We also have stitch length. And then we also have a big A real big reverse button. It's almost characteristic of a lot of the post-World War II Japanese machines where they give you a reverse button that you can see literally if you're on the if you're at the space station out there in outer space and someone has one of these set up on their workbench, you can almost see the reverse button from outer space. It's that big. And that's kind of the way they made this 6212C. And then over here, we've got a couple of different options. We've got a buttonhole setting right here. I'll get a little bit closer to it. As you move this slider, you can go to a buttonhole setting where you would adjust this control as well to do auto buttonholes. This is also going to be for straight stitching. And then we get into a zigzag, blind hem, 3-point zigzag, and then another type of almost kind of a stretch blind hem over this way. And then over here, you've got a setting that allows you to get a straight stitch, and then you can get different variations as far as the width of any of those stitches that are going to have needle swing, including obviously the zigzag. What else? A different way to disengage the clutch. Most time we look on machines, we're used to something that we turn to disengage the clutch. In this instance, it's going to be a push right here. You push this in, the clutch is disengaged. You push it back, and the clutch is re-engaged again. I think this is a lot nicer, to be honest. I think it's a lot nicer and easier than trying to hold that balance wheel and then turn that stop action at the same time. I think that requires a little bit more effort. This is a little bit more effortless. Our on-off switch here for the light. Kind of see that going on and off. What else? I think that's going to be about it. Bobbin winding on top. Engage it, slide it to the side. And again, you're going to want to know how full you want your bobbins, how full you want those bobbins. And if you didn't know it for whatever reason, by loosening this screw right here that I have the screwdriver in, you can slide this further in if you want the bobbin to be less full. Let's say you just want to fill a bobbin with a specialty thread and you don't want to fill that spool completely up because you're not going to use it. Then you can slide this in after you loosen that screw, and that bobbin is going to stop filling much earlier. But if you're doing general sewing, you generally want to loosen that screw and move this out far enough that you can fill that bobbin nice and full, kind of like this backup bobbin that I have right here that I filled in preparation for the live stream. You can see I've got it nice and full, and you're going to be able to run really, really long and hard with a bobbin that's this full. And as you're looking at this, if it reminds you of another bobbin, if it reminds you of another type of bobbin that goes into some of our other Singer machines, you're not wrong. In fact, I can show you a metal version of it, and you might right away recognize it. Something like this. They're going to be very, very close. The only difference being is this one is going to be a little bit bigger in circumference. You put them side by side like this, they're going to be really, really close. And a lot of people will try to run these class 66 bobbins in these 6200 series Singers from 1984. It's going to depend on the model as to how well that might potentially work for you. But my preference always is to have a metal bobbin over a plastic one. The metal is going to set into that raceway a little bit more steady. It's less likely to get a wobble to it like the plastic ones can, especially as they get lower on thread. They tend to wobble a little bit more in the raceway, and that can create stitch issues. And also, metal is just more it's more bulletproof. It doesn't get rough edges. It doesn't get cracks. It doesn't get chips and rough spots on it that can catch as it's spinning up in the raceway during the sewing process. So whenever possible, I always like to try to use a metal bobbin over a plastic one. But it really goes down to the machine and the sewist, because some people also have a real strong favoritism towards the plastic ones as well, partly because it's easier to see how much thread you have left at a glimpse, right? Whereas you look at this one as it's setting in the raceway, and it's really hard to tell exactly how much thread is left on that bobbin. So there's arguments for both camps on why you would prefer one maybe over another, right? So a little bit about our sewing setup today. Our sewing setup today is going to be pretty much my go-to needle with a little bit of a difference. This is going to be a different type of universal Schmetz 9014 needle. It's not the one that you're used to seeing that has the little blue marker on it. This one is going to be a little bit different, and the design of it, as far as the shank and the position of the eye of the needle, is a little bit, just a hair different than the other ones that you've typically seen me use on this channel. So it'll be interesting to see how this Schmetz needle does on the live stream today. It'll be interesting to see how it does. And then our thread is our go-to thread. Pretty much I use this thread a lot, and partly because I get a heck of a deal on it at Joann's. On the weekend like this, if I go to Joann's to give them more Sewaholic posters like that one, but much smaller. If I go to Joann's to bring them more Sewaholic posters, I'll usually pick up thread. And if I buy 3 threads, 3 spools of threads, and they've started also including Gutenman. I've got Gutenheim and Guten. You know what I mean? The German thread. They're also offering now where if you buy 3, you get 2 free. So a lot of great thread sales at Joann's, and maybe there's other sewing centers in your area that do the same thing. But I love getting something free. And if I buy 3 spools of thread and they say, oh, we're going to give you 2 free, I'm like, okay, yes, I'll take that. That sounds perfect. Okay, so let me get this set up a little bit. Let's do a little bit of stitching on this machine, see what we think. Again, we've got an engine in it that's 0.75 amps. Yeah, Susie, well said. We do have a number of people that that follow us. Number of people that follow us on Facebook and also on YouTube as well. Recently, we've gained some great friends from Bernina USA. We've gained some great friends from Schmetz as well. I think most of you know by now that Schmetz needles, the big guys, these folks right here, they are following us on Facebook and following us on YouTube as well. And I think some of them are now taking heart medicine. I'm pretty sure they're taking heart medicine because they'll see me do ridiculous things with their needles that I'm not supposed to be doing. Not supposed to be doing it. Like using some needles that are designed strictly for embroidery, and I'm sewing saddle grade leather. Or I'm sewing with some of their leather needles, and I'm sewing silk and satin. So I'm all over the board when it comes to Schmetz needles, but they still love us. They still love me, and they're still following our work and what we're doing. And I'm sure they're appreciative of the plugs that we get them as well, as far as people being devoted to Schmetz needles. So as we're looking at this machine, it might not be obvious, but as you're looking at this, it kind of looks like it's a flatbed sewing machine, right? But if I just pop up the back edge over here, I can slide off this extension bed, and all of a sudden we've got a free arm that we can use in the sewing space. And we can use it for different applications of sewing as well. But for our purposes during this live stream, we're probably just going to leave this on. I don't anticipate doing anything that's going to require a free arm. Assuming I can get this back on. I think I did. Yeah, there we go. And also this has the convenience. I'll just show you real quick. This has the convenience of a drop-in bobbin. You see it right there. And again, the benefits of plastic bobbins like this is you can slide this little door open and you can tell right away how much thread you have left so that you don't potentially run out. So that is a nice advantage, really nice advantage. And as we're looking at this, does anyone want to guess? Does anyone want to guess as we're looking at this bobbin in the raceway, which way is this bobbin going to be turning in the sewing process? Is it going to be going clockwise? Or is it going to be going counterclockwise? Shut that light off for a second. It's kind of hard to see. So what do you think? Is this in the sewing process, will this turn clockwise or counterclockwise? Yeah. And also, I love this feature as well. And this is common among a lot of the sewing machines, not just Singers, but you just pop up the throat plate cover like this, and you can rotate this out of the way to clean up underneath the feed dogs in that when you're working on projects, especially fleece projects and other things like that. They're going to generate a lot of lint. And I just pulled the thread a little bit, so you may have seen it turn, and now you know without a shadow of a doubt which way this bobbin will be turning in the sewing process. It's going to be turning counterclockwise. It's going to be turning like this, counterclockwise. So when you insert it, you're going to have the thread coming over the top, and then you're going to draw it in that little slat right there to the top, and then just pull that thread up like you normally would. Just like you normally would. Okay. You can see as well that this comes with a clam style shell foot controller. Now, let me go back to the question again as far as origin of manufacturing for this machine. We know that the body of this machine was made in Brazil. I've told you already that a lot of these machines in the 6000 series of Singers from the 1970s and 80s would have had motors that were made in France. Do you think that this foot controller was made in the US, Brazil, or in France? And then I'll show it to you. So I'm going to let you guess to that. Do you think it was made in the US? Was it made in Brazil? Or was it made in France? Okay, see how you do with that. See how you do that, and then I'll show you the answer instead of telling you the answer. Yeah. And I hope our camera does okay. Because on this machine, the light is the power on for the entire machine. So during the live stream, we're going to have the light on like that in order to power the machine up. And so I might have to periodically shut it off so that we can see the stitch quality, because the LED light that I put in this machine is going to mess around with the camera big time. It's going to mess around with the camera. There it goes again. So Susie's the only one that jumped out there and said, what about France? Because remember, a lot of our machine makers, including Husqvarna, would use US manufacturers to make motors and foot controllers and other parts of the machine. So the possibility of it being from the US or Brazil or France is a real possibility. But in this case, Susie from Minnesota happens to be spot on. And for anyone looking for a replacement, possibly, you can see what the specs are on this. And you can see that it's rated. If I put my finger right there, it looks like it's rated up to 0.95 amps. And that's absolutely as it should be. Remember, your foot controller always has to be rated higher than your motor. So we know in this instance, we have a French-made motor that's rated at 0.75, and now our foot controller is 0.95. So that means we're going to be able to maximize that motor. That motor is not going to be hindered by a foot controller that acts like the gateway for that electricity. Remember, when you plug a sewing machine in, any sewing machine, that electricity has to go through the foot controller before it hits the motor. It's got to go through the foot controller before it hits the motor. So if that foot controller isn't rated appropriately, it's going to either underserve the motor or it's going to overheat. And you remember recently our friend Maxwell from Colorado had that model, what is it, 230, I believe. Yeah, he had that FOF 230, and the foot controller was a Mercury style foot controller. It was underrated dramatically. And I showed you the pictures on Facebook where that thing with general sewing got up to over 150 degrees. So if anyone thinks that foot controllers are not a big deal, you're absolutely incorrect. Make sure that if you acquire a foot controller, sometimes they've been swapped out. Make sure that that foot controller is going to give that motor optimal opportunity by being rated higher than that motor. Okay. All right. So let's check this machine out. So here we've got kind of an international fest, fun fest with a machine that is a compilation. I think that's $1.50 word, might be $1.50 word, is a compilation of US ingenuity along with engineering, design, and production in the country of Brazil and the country of France. So we basically have a conglomerate of three companies, not really one company under three different banners in three different countries that came together to make this model 6212C a possibility. Without France, we would be turning the balance wheel by hand. Without Brazil, we wouldn't have any place to put the motor. And without the ingenuity and the design of Singer in the US to begin with, we wouldn't have a machine design to plug a motor or anything else into. So they all depended on each other. And as a result, we get a great machine. So let's check it out. And again, you may have trouble seeing because that light has to be on in the sewing process, unless I unscrew it maybe. I don't know if I can do that or not. Probably not. If I could somehow unscrew it, I may try to do that. I want to blowing something up here. Yeah, it's such a tight space to try to get in there. But what I could do, and I might do this real quick, is I could grab some painter's tape and I can block that light. If I block that light a little bit, we can leave the light on, but it won't be glaring down there and blocking our view of the stitch process. Give me just a second. Give me just a second here. And actually, I can use one of my little cards. I'll use one of my little cards with some tape to block that light off. When I get a machine in the workshop, I will attach one of these cards to it so I know exactly when that machine arrived. and I can be fair about getting that machine on the workbench. All right, we're going to cut this down a little bit. Should be pretty close. Should be pretty close, I think. I'll just cut one piece. See if I did that right. I think that'll work. I hope that'll work. Yeah. See that when you're shooting something for a live stream like this, you have to make certain adjustments. Okay, we'll set that to the side. And I did, since the last live stream, I did get some additional reviews for Cow Country. And I don't know if we'll do it today. We probably won't. But I do have another set of Guggenheim scissors that I want to give away. Matter of fact, I've got them right here. So if anyone, before Tuesday's live stream, if anyone wants to try to win a set of Guggenheim scissors, these again are some of the best scissors that I've ever held, and I've given a number of them away already. They're guaranteed for a lifetime. They have a lifetime warranty, and they do a fabulous job of cutting fabric evenly and without any fraying, without any hesitancy, all the way down to the tip. They cut beautifully. So if you want to try to win a set of these, if you haven't already done so, get a review in, and it's in the description of this live stream as well. Get a review in for Cow Country on Google, and Tuesday we'll do another reading of the reviews that are posted for people that have not already won a pair of these, and then we'll vote on the best review or the review of our choice, and that individual will receive a pair of these Guggenheim scissors. I believe the last time it was it Emma or was it Madeline that won a pair of these scissors? I think it was Emma, if I remember correctly. I think it was Emma. And then also I got more of these to give away. These double eye Schmetz needles. If anyone is interested in trying these out, all you have to do is send a text or call during the live stream, and you can write in your little note or give your verbal message of why you love Cow Country and why you love vintage sewing machines. So you can send a text or you can call, and I'll read it on the live stream, and then you can win one of these of double eye needles by Schmetz, these new things that they're offering. And I see in the notes that it was Madeline from Florida that was the last one to win a set of the Guggenheim scissors. Emma and Madeline are both from Florida, so I sometimes cross-pollinate them. As a matter of fact, they're pretty close in where they live to each other as well. So I sometimes will mistake one for the other. So apparently it was Madeline that won those Guggenheim scissors on the last live stream. All right. So now we can have the light on, and we're going to be able to see what's happening at the same time. I should have done this before. I've struggled with this before, and all I had to do was cut a little card up and block that light temporarily. Okay. So we'll start with a basic straight stitch, right? And on this machine, it's really easy to do that. Really easy. We've already got this set on straight stitch right there. I'm not going to worry about needle position. We're on a center needle position. I've already got this set on straight stitch. And then I just have to decide about my stitch length. right here. And I don't think I'll go full bore. I think I'll do like a 4 maybe. So I'm just going to rotate this a little bit, go right to 4. And then maybe what we'll do is we'll do a line of stitching at 4, 3, 2, and then 1. And then we'll jump into some of the other stitch options that this machine from the 1980s offers. And I'm going to be kind of excited to show this machine to you and then ultimately pivot over to the other workbench eventually and show you that Designer One machine that I showed you a little bit ago in this live stream that has that big computer screen on it. It's owned by the same individual. It's owned by Jeannine from Lena, Wisconsin. Lena, Wisconsin. Yeah. I had to double check my notes. I've got so many customers and so many machines in my head right now. It's crazy. It's crazy. All right, so let's check this out and see what we think. We're all set up. Let's just buzz down and listen to this machine run as well. The motor that you're listening to, again, was made in France, and it's being driven by that clam-style foot controller I showed you that was also made in France. And then the mechanics of this machine were made in Brazil. So we've got a collage. We've got a collage of countries that are working to get this together for us today. Yeah, let's check it out and see what we think. I'm going to check my camera angle. Yeah, that's a good camera angle. All right. So a basic straight stitch. How much easier does it get than that, right? Let's do a basic straight stitch and then we'll kind of change the stitch length a couple times on it, okay? And this is not a machine that pulls the thread heavily, but kind of watch for that as you're launching. Make sure you start with your take-up arm. See how low my take-up arm is right now? That is not the ideal place to launch. I want to make sure that I move that take-up arm up and up and up. There we go. Just so it's on that downstroke. That's the best way to launch with any sewing machine to free up the mechanics of that machine. All right, just gonna check my camera angle again. I think we're good. Okay, here we go. Just a basic straight stitch, and then we'll do some variations of it as far as length. Here we go. And this is kind of a weird little presser foot. I'm used to the presser foots that have the opening right in the front, right there. And on this presser foot, the opening is on the left side of the presser foot. And I have to keep reminding myself to draw the thread into the left side over here instead of trying to take it through the goalpost right in the front there. Have to remind myself because you get into like a habit of doing it a certain way. And it's hard to break that habit, isn't it? It's hard to break that habit. All right, let's make that short. Let's make that straight stitch shorter and see what we think of how this is going to look once we get all the way down to the bottom. And obviously, the material that we're starting on is it's 100% cotton from a fat quarter that I buy at a local retailer, and then it's got a little bit of a stiffener in it to give it a little bit more stability. So now the only adjustment we're going to make is we're going to take that stitch length down a little bit further. We're on 4, take it all the way down to 3, just right around 3. We'll stitch another line and then we'll keep going down and down and down and down and down. Check that take-up arm again when you launch. Get ready to launch. Here we go. And I know that ringtone. That's Emma sending me a text about something. So that's 3. Now we're going to be going down to 2 and then eventually 1. That way you can see the range of this model 6212C from the 1980s as to what kind of stitch length variation we can get with this machine. All right, let me get that in place. I'll take a look at my text message real quick. And the message from Emma, is this a belt-driven machine or is this direct drive? This is absolutely a belt-driven machine. Um, and so it does not have the benefits that you might get from a direct drive type machine, like you would see a lot with, the Slantomatic series, the 201s, etc., and any of those machines that have a potted gear to gear type drive design. So yeah, this machine and most of the machines made in the 1970s and 80s would almost exclusively be belt-driven machines. And some of them are going to have multiple belts. They're going to have a dry belt on the right side over the balance wheel to the motor pulley, and also they're going to have an additional dry belt on the bottom of the bed of the machine, like some of the Kenmore machines as well. So there you've got the issue of having to potentially replace two belts instead of just one. But that's a great question from Emma that she just sent in. So thank you for that. All right, I've got it opened up again. There we go. Yeah, if there's any audio or visual issues, let me know that, please. Hopefully we're okay now. All those people sharing the tower with me for the 5G network hopefully have made all their calls and they're out shopping somewhere right now. Of course, if they're shopping, they're going to be calling people as well, but then hopefully they'll be on a different tower, right? Hopefully. All right, so now we're going down to 2. I'm going to rotate this down further. This big knob, we can turn it very easily. Now we're down to 2. We'll do our next row of stitching and we'll see what we think of this one. All right, here we go. Whoops. I didn't get my thread all the way back. There we go. Hopefully I didn't mess it up. It looks like I did okay. Yeah, I'm just not in the habit. I don't know if anyone else is like that, but I'm just not in the habit of having to wiggle that thread around to the left side of the presser foot and bring it in that little slat all the way over here. So in that case, I had one thread tucked away under like it was supposed to be. The other thread was not tucked away. So yeah, there you go. Habits are hard to break, aren't they? They're hard to develop and then they're hard to break if they're bad habits or different habits. Okay. Let's go on to our next one now. So now I'm rotating. I'm not going to bring you all the way over there again. I'm going to rotate our stitch length all the way down to 1. And that's not as low as we can go. We could actually go down to about 0.5 on this machine, all the way down to 0.5. Actually, if I look at it closely, we could go all the way down to 0.25. But we're going to stop at 1 because I think that'll be small enough for sure. All right, so we started with a stitch length of 4. We didn't go all the way to the max. We started with 4, 3, 2, and now we're going to finally do 1. And get your magnify glass out. Get your magnify glass out because we're going to need it on this final stitch row when we look at it. Holy mackerel. Wow. And again, that's not even as small as we can go. Well, let's look at what we've done so far. We've gone through the basics, kind of showing the general range of the straight stitching on this Brazil slash France slash US Singer machine from the 1980s, this model 6212C, and we've laid down some beautiful straight stitching. Let's take a look at that. I'm also going to shut my heater off real quick. It's getting kind of warm in here. Let me raise that camera up a little bit. There we go. Can't tell if it's focused. I don't think it's focused yet. Hold on a second. Try it like that. Does that look, that looks blurry, doesn't it? That doesn't look like it's fully in focus yet. Angle it like that maybe a little bit. My camera is having trouble here. Hold on a second. I think we got it now. I think we're there. I think we might be there. There, now it's fine. I think it's finally focused now. I don't know what's going on with this camera. Well, you can see that last stitch row that we did on the setting of 1 for stitch length. I don't think we need to go below that. I don't see why you would ever go below that, because right now we're at a point where you can barely see the stitching. It's so teeny tiny. See if that helps it a little bit. All right. Well, you can see they're beautiful stitches. Let me turn it over. We'll see if we have better success with the lock stitching as far as the camera wanting to focus on it. This is our lock stitch now for the stitching we've already done on this 6212 C machine, 6212 machine. There's our lock stitching. Turn it like this as well. See if we can see it that way. I've used this color cotton before too, so I know it's not the color of the material. I think it's just the camera. We tried using yellow cotton one time, and oh my gosh, that was like impossible. The camera was like, I cannot see that. I cannot see that. So some beautiful stitching on this 100% cotton with this 1980s machine. Now we're going to move over to the zigzag realm, and eventually we'll step over into some of those utility I would describe them more as utility stitches than decorative or ornamental stitches. They're really more in the utility realm, basic type stitching that we can try on this machine as well. So we'll start with a fairly good sized zigzag, and then we'll kind of launch from there. So we're going to make our adjustment over here first. We'll go ahead and move this all the way to the widest zigzag that we can get. And again, whenever you move into a stitch that has needle swing, it might require some adjustments on tension, because think of it like building a bridge. If you're building a bridge and you have too big of a span between the supports, that thread or those supports can droop. You've got to have enough support. So the support for a sewing machine, as you're looking at bringing those stitch points further and further apart, is going to be the tension factor. How hard it's pulling up, how hard it's pulling down to keep that thread nice and taut as you're creating bigger gaps to where that needle is hitting that material. So when we go to this extent, we might have to make adjustments on that tension to maintain stitch quality. No adjustment on needle position. We'll just leave that the way it is. And then finally, we have to focus over here and move this control over to number 3, so we can try to lay down a zigzag on that. And then we've got to decide about our stitch length as well. We're way down on 1 right now where we were to start. And now we're going to back this all the way back up to right around 4, a little bit over 4. We're not going to go all the way to 5, probably like around 4, 4.25, somewhere in that realm, right in that neck of the woods. And we'll see what we think of this next stitch output from this 1984. This 1984 machine. I should get my material semi-straight too. I'll start sewing crooked and then I'll keep sewing crooked so it looks like it's straight. You know what I mean? All right. I'm going to turn down my volume a little bit. I can hear myself laughing. It's kind of creepy. There we go. All right, let's lay down a zigzag now on this 100% cotton with a stiffener. See what we think of this. And this is not the widest zigzag, but it's pretty doggone close. Here we go. And even not at the widest point, look at the size of that zigzag. That is just insane. If you compare it to the zigzag that we had when I recently presented that Bernina machine. Remember that Bernina 125? The one from the 1940s, 1943, I believe. Even at its widest point with that Bernina 125 from the 1940s, we would not have had anything comparable to this. So there are benefits as well, as they improve the mechanics of the machines through the different evolutions and phases of designing sewing machines to give us even a wider variety of stitch output. And then eventually we get into machines that can do the decorative ornamental as well, which is really a plus. I think it's a huge plus for what we can do with our sewing machines. And that's why, like I showed you, the owner of this machine, Jeannine, also has that Designer One. I mean, a hardcore computerized. See, I started to go towards the middle again. A hardcore computerized machine, and she's able to love both of these machines for different reasons because of what they can do. All right, let's do another zigzag. We're going to bump it down, and we'll see how it presents differently than this first one we did. All right, so we're going to, first of all, make our first adjustment right here, kind of take it down to right about there. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Not going to do a thing with this. And then we're going to look at our stitch length. We'll kind of bump it down a little bit further, right around 3.5 maybe. We'll kind of mirror and match the stitch width with the stitch length. So we get a semi-balanced zigzag stitch, hopefully. All right, get that take-up arm all the way up. And now we'll do our next stitch row with this 1980s Singer model 6212C. No idea why they put a C on it, but they must have wanted to put a C on it. Maybe to honor Canada. Even though it wasn't made in Canada, hey, why not, right? Why not? I think Christine would agree that's no problem. All right, let's do this next zigzag. Here we go. Yeah, so you can see we've made some dancing around a little bit. We started with this one. Really love that first zigzag, don't you? We kind of bumped it down a little bit. We're going to keep bumping her down through those different phases, just like we did with the straight stitching. And we'll see what we think of it when we finally get done. And I'll just turn it over real quick to show you. Right now, we're maintaining some really good stitch balance. This is our lock stitch, and we haven't had to make any adjustments with regard to balancing that top to bottom stitch. Right now, the upper tension and the bobbin case below are getting along. They're being friends. They're being nice to each other. All right, let me get this in place. So again, if you're joining us on the live stream a little bit late, if some of you didn't know this, the leadership team knows this because after a live stream, I will send them a summary. It's like a summary sheet that YouTube gives me, and it tells us a number of different things about the YouTube live stream. And one of the things is how many times has that live stream been viewed? Now, right now, if I'm looking at the live chat and the number of potential participants that are present right now, we're right around 13. And we've kind of gone up and down a couple of times 13, 14, 15, 16, sometimes down to 12, sometimes back up to 20. The numbers will vary quite a bit during a live stream. But the thing that you don't realize is that we have people that are stepping into the live stream. And as they're stepping away, one or two brand new people that discovered that we're live streaming will jump into that live stream. And so I've shown the leaders before, by the time we get to the end of the live stream, we will have already had anywhere from 100 to 200 people that have viewed that live stream. Now they may only stay for a short period of time because they have to bounce away and do something else. But the fact of the matter is we have people bouncing in and out of the live stream continuously. Bum, bum, bum. 2 away, 3 back, 4 away, 5 back, 6 away, 10 back, 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 back. And any of the leaders that are present right now can attest to the fact when I send them those summaries. I think the first time I sent one to Susie, she was like, "Holy cow! What?" She didn't realize that during the live stream, we had 150 people, 160 people that had jumped in, checked it out, were watching for a while, then they had to jump away. And that's just the nature of nature of live streaming. So, but it's exciting because all those people potentially will ultimately become regulars, will ultimately become part of the Cow Country family, and will be able to share new experiences and their knowledge, be able to share their knowledge with us and learn from us as well. So that's kind of cool, I think. All right, back down again. Now we're going to continue to step it down. Continue to step it down. So we're going to back this off a little bit more. Right about to there. We'll leave this alone, leave that alone. We'll back this off a little bit more, get us down to right around 2.75, something like that. Right around to 2.75. We'll do our next zigzag, see what we think of it. And I can go smaller than that. We can almost get to a mending stitch, couldn't we? Let's do another stitch row, and then I'll find out from you if you want me to launch into any more zigzagging. Otherwise, we'll move into some of the other stitches that this machine from 1980 will do as well. All right, here we go. Kind of going up and down on that French-made foot controller, just to have a little bit of fun. This does not have a slow gear, so you have to regulate the speed of this machine through that foot controller made in France. So there's our next little zigzag that we laid down. What do you think? Should we do one more zigzag and really bump her down quite a bit? Or do you want me to launch into, looks like our next one will be a blind hem stitch. So we can do more zigzagging, or we can move into a blind hem stitch. There's our lock stitch. Let me pull this a little bit more. There's our lock stitching on the back. Yeah, I don't sew straight, but the machine is doing a great job. Machine is doing a great job. Yeah, beautiful stitching. Beautiful stitching. So yeah, we can be a little bit snobby sometimes. We can be a little bit snobby about vintage machines, and we might even set a bar and say, hold on a second. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. Alex is saying the C would stand for Campinas, Brazil. Campinas, however you would say that. Campinas, Brazil. Yeah, I think that's actually that's a great suggestion. That it's pointing to the origin of manufacturing, isn't it? I'm assuming Alex, help us out here. Campinas, that is a city in Brazil, correct? I'm going to wait for Alex to respond. Alex, Alcas pointed out a great thing. Campinas, Brazil. So that's a city. That's a city in Brazil. I've never been to Brazil. Has anyone in the live stream ever been to Brazil before? I'll bet you if Christine was here, Christine could really give us some knowledge on about that city and about, generally about Brazil, right? She lives there. But I've never been. I've never been to Brazil. Never been. All right. So it looks like we only had really one vote, but one vote is one vote. We'll go ahead and launch into a blind hem now. And I usually shrink the blind hems down with a fairly short stitch length. So let's see. And if Alex, aka Al Koss, wants to do any more digging for us during the live stream, share a little bit more about this potential city in Brazil that C on this model. Again, this is a 6212C. Wants to share more about that city, so we know a little bit more about it. That would be cool, because I know nothing. I know nothing about that city. I'm just curious if I look into the manual real quick. Just kind of looking into the front of the manual. Yeah, all it says is printed in Brazil. Printed in Brazil. So it doesn't give us a specific city location or anything like that, which is not a surprise. Not a surprise. But yeah, well, why don't we dig into it a little bit more and see what we find, huh? See what we find so we can get more knowledge. You never can have enough knowledge, right? All right, so let's move into the blind hem phase now. And we have some decisions to make. We'll probably leave this right around there. I won't touch that. I won't touch that. We'll move this slider over to blind hem now. And then we have to make a decision about stitch length. I'll probably bring this down a ways. Coming down, right to about probably about 1 3/4, 1.75. We'll see what we think of the look of that blind hem with these settings. And again, if you were sitting in front of this machine instead of me, you might pick totally different settings. You might just go a totally different direction when it comes to what you might potentially sew. What you might potentially sew. Oh, interesting. So what? I'm not following that. 300 acres of land purchased by Singer. So maybe that was a specific manufacturing location. Is that what you're saying, Alex? That must be the specific manufacturing location that Campinas, whatever that is, Campinas. That's almost like remember when I took that trip We did that fundraiser for the History Museum. This one right here. And when I went down there, I took you to that Singer plant in Indiana. And that plant location was right around 50 acres. And what our friend Alex is telling us is that this would have been a plant location that was developed by Singer in Brazil, in this particular area, Campinas or whatever it is. But it would have been probably around 6 times the size of that Singer plant that I took you to down in Indiana when we did that fundraiser. So Singer didn't mess around when they were building plants. As Alex has shared with us, as Alex has shared with us, they would invest significantly in buying a lot of land up so that they could expand, and even increase the production more. So very, very interesting. I like I say it all the time. Sometimes a teacher, always a student. Today, during the live stream, because of Alex being here, we got a different perspective. And I would certainly encourage folks, because when Alex shared this with us, it was kind of a, this might be the case. So if anyone wants to do additional research and just confirm it, and at the next live stream, circle back with us and say, yeah, exactly what Alex suspected is correct. That trust but verify factor. That way we know for sure that we can then step out into other circles and share with people. If they're saying, well, I wonder why does that model have a C after it? What's that all about? Then we can carry that information forward and share it with other people as well. Yeah. We're always learning from each other, aren't we? We're always learning. All right, let's check out this blind hem stitch now on this 1940s model 6212C. 6212C. All right, here we go. I'm going up and down, up and down, up and down. The French that made this foot controller right now are probably getting really annoyed and saying, can't you keep it steady? Can't you keep it steady? I could. Not as much fun. So there's our blind hem, at least the way I chose to do it, with the settings that I selected. If I use different settings, we can change the look of that stitch significantly, can't we? But at least for now, this is our top stitch. You can kind of see what I generated with the settings that I chose. See if our camera will be nice. Turn it like that, maybe. And I just before this live stream, I got a notification that I had to download new software, the latest software for this camera. And you know how sometimes when your phone or other devices tells you need to download this latest software, before you download the software, your device might be doing great. It's running. I love this device. And then you download that new software, and all of a sudden your device is not doing exactly what you want it to do. So I'm almost kind of kicking myself now that I chose to download that upgrade, latest software, blah, 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 for the camera, because now the camera's having a little bit more difficulty in focusing on this sew-off material. A little bit more difficulty, isn't it? Starting to decide to come around a little bit, maybe. Really going to push it here. Way back. Coming in at you, coming at you. See if I can change the angle of the camera a little bit too. That might help. So if the angle of the camera is down too much, pointing down, like when we're sewing, it has a little bit more trouble focusing. Now it's doing a little bit better. There we go. Yeah, that doggone software. That software can make you or break you, can't it? That software can make you or break you. See if that helps. Oh boy. There's the right angle. There's the right angle. You can see how my blind hem looks. You would have had different settings and totally changed the look of that dramatically. No doubt. Matter of fact, we can try making some adjustments and stitch it one more time to see how we can change it. Yeah. All right, let's make some adjustments. We'll try stitching the same blind hem one more time and see how dramatically we can change the look of it. So right now we're set over here. Let's go up one click right to there. Come over this. We're not going to change that, but we're going to change this. And now we're going to go from about 1.75 all the way up to, say, 2.5 on stitch length. Yeah, let's see how that stitch changes now and how it presents. And this is the wonder of you applying your discretion when you're doing different sew-offs like this, so you can decide how you want that stitching to look. Everyone's going to have a different opinion. It's like going to a ice cream shop and everyone loves the ice cream, but everyone gets a different flavor. The stitch variation we can generate with any sewing machine is the flavor that we choose to apply to our sewing project as a sewist. And there's no right or wrong flavor. They're just different, right? They're just different. All right, let's go to this next one. See how we can change the look of that blind hem. I'm going to go really slow just to make our friends in France happy. Just to make our friends in France happy, I went really, really slow to show that clam style foot controller that they supplied with their French motor for this machine has a great deal of control. You can do a lot of control with that foot controller. And now we've just done exactly the same stitch pattern, but boy, oh boy, do they look different. This is our top stitch. Adjust that camera back up again. I think it's a little bit happier that way, maybe. Look at how different those are. Yeah, let's try it like this. That's still not focused, is it? It's still not focused completely. See if I can mess with that camera a little bit here. All right, come on. Come on, you can do this. Yeah, it's still struggling with focusing, isn't it? Or maybe it's my eyes. Maybe my eyes are screwed up. I don't think it's my eyes. I think it's the camera. Hold on, let me try something real quick. Hold on a second. I've been working with a lot of things on that Montgomery Ward, generating a lot of dust in the workshop. Let's see if we can clean that lens a little bit on the camera. Let's see if that helps. That may not help at all because it might be a software thing with that upgrade, but we will see. All right, just double checking. Yeah, that's a top stitch. Well, that did focus in better, but that may just be a fluke. So maybe my lens was dirty. I have no idea. But our focus over here now, by this blind hem, you can see the contrast between those two that we did. And that's just a matter of selecting stitch length and stitch width. Yeah, that's blurry. That's blurry. I'm sure that's blurry. It'll start to zoom in and get really clear, and then it goes like, I don't feel like focusing anymore. We may just have to go from this distance, huh? There it is. There it is. Technology can really be a booger sometimes, can't it? It just can be. So that was our top stitch. Now I'm going to flip it over. We'll look at that lock stitch and see if we can hopefully get this to focus in a little bit more clearly. But it just goes to show you, you can have a lot of discretion, a lot of creative discretion in how you get a machine to do what you want it to do. All right, let's do the next one. I think we've given this this camera a little bit of a workout today. So now we'll move away from the blind hem and we'll move into what looks like a 3-point zigzag. And we'll see what we think of that one. 3-point zigzag. And I think I'll leave my width setting the same over here. I'll leave the width setting right about in the middle, close to the middle. And now we'll move our selector from the blind hem over to the 3-point zigzag, number 5. And now we're going to decide on stitch length. I'm going to let you all pick the stitch length. Something between 1 and 5. Between 1 and 5, we'll set that stitch length, see what we get, and then we'll make an adjustment to it and change the look of that stitch dramatically. So if you want to type a number into the live chat, something between 1 and 5, that'll determine what our stitch length will be so off, so that you can get involved and give that input. And it really becomes a subjective thing, doesn't it? It becomes very subjective in what as to whether or not the owner is in the live stream. I wasn't able to get in contact with them before deciding to present this machine today. So It's possible that they are, but we've had owners before that are in the live stream, but there's an additional step that they have to take in order to join the live chat, and some of them elect not to do that. So I don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you, Susie. All right, so we're getting a general vote of 3. Let's adjust it to 3. Right about there. So we got 3. We'll do our 3-point zigzag. We're set right here on the stitch width, and let's see what we get this time. All right, take-up arms all the way up. All right, here we go. So we've got it really stretched out right now. We really have that 3-point zigzag stretched out quite a bit compared to, if you look at the image that is on the sewing machine itself, kind of depicting what that stitch might look like. Our version, or our flavor, kind of like ice cream, our flavor is different. Our flavor is very different. This is what we just generated. Nothing wrong with it. Kind of looks like a mountain range maybe, or something like that. Same thing, both sides. And this is what they told us that it might look like. If you look at the front of the machine over here, that's the stitch we're doing right there. But in order to get something like that, closer to that, we've got to make some additional adjustments to it so we can try to get the flavor that they presented to us on the front of this Brazilian French American machine. Yeah, if we want to get closer to what the Brazilian French Americans say we might be doing, we'll make a couple adjustments, and we'll start on the stitch length. I'm going to back this down quite a bit. We started on 3 because that was the consensus. We're going to go all the way down to right around 2, a little bit below 2 on the stitch length. And then we're going to go over to this over here on the stitch width, and we're going to bump it down 1 more, kind of like almost right between these 2 over here, and we'll change the look of that stitch dramatically. And they're both great stitches. But we can change the look of them dramatically by messing around with stitch length and stitch width, right? Let's see what we get this time. I'm going to take that stitch length down a little bit further. I stopped this on 2. Go down to 1.5. 1.5. Let's take this down a little bit further too, right about to there. So we're right about there at 1.5. Let's see what impact we brought to the look of that stitch. See if we get any closer to what the Brazilian French USA people gave us that little picture of on the front of the machine. See what we think. All right, here we go. Interesting. Very, very interesting. The only thing we would have to change is to give it more of a pointed. Right now, it's got more of a wavy look to it. We would have to make a couple more adjustments, but at the same time, who cares? Because it's our flavor. Not theirs. So we'll look at this right now. Look at those 2 stitch rows that we made. The same stitch pattern, totally different look. Totally different look. So you choose yourself. If you're sitting in front of a machine like this, don't pick somebody else's flavor. Pick the flavor that you like, and then create your own masterpiece. based on that stitch output. Turn it like this too, see if that gives us a different perspective if the camera wants to be nice. I'm looking over at the laptop and it looks like it's still out of focus. I'm really annoyed by this software update that they gave me. It's almost in focus now, almost. But those doggone software people, I think they're trying to protect their jobs. They've got something that's working great, but if they don't do something, they're going to cut their hours or something. You know what I mean? They're going to cut their hours and they're going to lose out on getting a full paycheck or something. I think that's what it's about. Doggone software people. Yeah, next time it offers me an update just before a live stream, I'm going to say, nah. Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so. All right, let's turn over, look at the other side. It's our lock stitch. We're going to look at that same stitching. Again, we took a 3-point zigzag and we messed around with it. And we adjusted stitch width, stitch length to give us a totally different stitch pattern look. Totally different stitch pattern look. All right. All right. You get the idea. And actually, towards the end there, the camera decided, yeah, I'll cooperate with you a little bit. I'll cooperate. Yeah, I'll give you something that looks almost like it's in focus. Yeah, why don't I do that? All right, let's do the last stitch, which kind of to me looks like it's a stretch blind hem, but you might call it something different. What would you call this stitch pattern here on the end? We just did this one. Now we're going to be moving our selector over to number 6 right there. Kind of looks almost like a stretch blind hem, doesn't it? Sort of, kind of. Kind of like a stretch blind hem, maybe. And now we'll look at our settings. We'll look at our settings. We're at around 1.5 on stitch length right now. Maybe we'll bump it up to 2. And we have to look at our stitch width. Right now it looks like we're on number 2 where there's 4 different settings for stitch width. Maybe we'll go right in the middle, right around a 2.5, kind of in the middle of those two right there. And we'll see what kind of result we get with this particular stitch. Oh, and goodbye to Alcas, Alex. Looks like Alex had to step away, which is totally fine. All right, let's take a look at this next stitch and see what we think of this one. All right, here we go. Kind of taking it slow. Actually, those choices as far as stitch length and stitch width actually delivered a pretty good looking product. Actually, I think I would call that kind of a stretch blind hem stitch. It's kind of what it looks like to me, but you might see something different. Kind of like a Bob Ross painting, you know? Like our Bob Ross painting is what it is. So this is the one that we just sewed. Take a look at that one first. Right there on top. Let's try that angle right there. See how that works. Put my hand above there. Try it like that. And that's helping a little bit, isn't it? Helping a little bit. Try it like that. Yeah, this I don't know about you, but this drives me buggy with this camera struggling with focusing on this. And I can't attribute it to anything. Let me see if I hold the manual up behind there. See if that helps in some way. Gives it more of a flat background. Let's see if that helps. So putting that manual behind there seems to help that camera just a little bit, doesn't it? It did temporarily anyway. That's our lock stitch if we can see it. This is not a great day for the camera. That's for darn sure. Oh my gosh. This thing's driving me buggy. All right, we're going to go from that distance because that seems to be the distance that this camera is happy with today. Seems to be the distance. And if you're viewing this on a device that has a much bigger field of vision, maybe like on a big screen TV, like some of our folks will watch live streams, you can probably see this with a great deal of clarity. But I try to get as close as I can so that you can see it more easily. And this camera is just not wanting that today, for sure. But at any rate, this is all of the stitches, with the exception if you make adjustments to stitch length or width. This is all the stitches that this model will generate, this 6212C. So for most people, this is going to be enough. For most people, this is going to be enough. And Susie is giving input that maybe this last stitch that I kind of called a stretch blind hem stitch, because that is a real stitch. They do make a stretch blind hem. It's got additional gap points between it. Susie's saying it could also be an applique type stitch as well, couldn't it? So, but it's just fun. It's fun to see what we can do by tweaking length and width to change the look of a stitch dramatically. And you may have gone down a totally different path than I did. You might have gone down a totally different path. So, all right, let me set this to the side. We'll goof around with some other materials as well to see what we think of the look of that. I'm going to send this to the back. Set my manual right over there. And I didn't even do my Gutenheim scissors to kind of crop this off a little bit. I could do that real quick and try to make this look a little bit straighter. Even though you know that I sewed crooked. Even though you know I sewed crooked, we'll pretend that I sewed straight. These cut so nice. Oh my gosh. They cut so nice. Yeah, I still didn't straighten it out very well. All right, I'm going to stop while I'm ahead or we won't have anything left. But at any rate, we did all of these on the live stream, and it's just fun to see. It's fun to listen to this machine as well. It's going to run differently than some of our older vintage machines. But all in all, I think that she did a really, really good job. Again, this was a work of or creation. This was a creation that had 3 different countries working together: the U.S., Brazil, and also France. So it's kind of fun to see. Got to see what happens when people bring their heads together and their talents. All of a sudden, you can generate something very different, can't you? All right, let me set that to the back. Clean up my little mess here. Yeah, whoever wins that next set of Gutenheim scissors, I think they're going to be very, very happy. Well, we've done some light work on this machine. Let's see if we can mess around with something a little bit more hardcore. Something a little bit more hardcore. I think we'll go right to some genuine elk hide. You can see from the side of this, the thickness that we're looking at, probably around 3 to 4 ounces of leather. There's even some belts that would be right around this thickness, so we're almost sewing through the equivalent of a belt. Yeah, let's see. We'll lay down a zigzag on it, I think, to start. And I'm going to widen this zigzag a little bit. I'm going to go right over to here. Kind of go almost to the max, not quite. We're going to be right around, it's 1, 2, 3, right around 3.5 on the width. I'm going to bring our slider all the way back to our zigzag setting. Bring our slider back to our zigzag setting. And then we're going to adjust our stitch length a little bit to a longer setting. Why don't we say right around, let's see here, close to 3.5. So we're right around 3.5, 3.5. And we'll see what we think of this one. And again, we're sewing genuine elk hide. It's not a light sew off. And there are people that have machines from the 1980s that would never conceive of sewing at this level with their 1980s machine, but we're going to give it a go and we'll see how this machine does. Again, our setup is we've got a 9014 Schmetz universal needle. It's not a leather needle. It's a universal needle, so it's not going to have the same point that a leather needle would have, the benefit of kind of a serrated edge to cut through this leather more readily. We're going to have to rely on that 0.75 amp motor that was made in France and see how this machine does with a heavier sew off. Bring that take-up arm all the way up. Angle our camera down just a little bit more. Yeah, let's see how it does. And I'm not going to hand start it. I'm just going to jump into this and do our best. See if we can get a nice solid launch and lay down some good looking zigzag stitching down this fairly thick piece of genuine elk hide. Okay. All right, here we go. And again, we haven't made any significant changes to we haven't made any changes, not significant. We haven't made any changes at all to the tension. And again, when we're going through a field of materials, a diverse field of materials, we might have to make some adjustments. All in all, looks like we're pretty good, but we're a little bit weak on the lock side. I'll show you what I mean shortly. We're a little bit weak on the lock stitch side. In other words, is that universal needle was sweeping through this thick layer of genuine alkyd, there wasn't quite enough upper tension pulling up to make that lock stitch really, really nice and sharp. It's a little bit weak. In fact, in certain parts, you'll be able to see where that thread was not pulled all the way back up. And that's a product of upper tension, isn't it? So we'll look at the top stitch first on this genuine alkyd, and then we'll move to the other side and look at that lock stitch. And then we'll probably sew this one more time after we make a upper tension adjustment to see what impact we can bring to give ourselves a sharper looking lock stitch. There's our top stitch right there. I'm going to kind of move up and down on it a little bit. I haven't said it during this live stream yet, but that is a page 34. That's a page 34 lock top stitch for sure. Page 34, very, very good looking. The spacing, the formation, the presentation of that zigzag through a very thick layer of genuine alkyd using a non-leather needle is really spot on. And this is where I make the people at Schmetz a little bit nervous. A little bit nervous I make them when I start doing stuff like this. Turn it like this too, so you can see it this way. It's our top stitch again, our top stitch. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. And again, look at the thickness of that. I think there's a number of people that would agree that that is the equivalent of sewing through a belt. And again, we did it with a 1980s machine, 1984 approximately, with a 0.75 amp motor that was made in France. The machine was made in Brazil. The motor and foot controller came out of France. The design and the engineering came out of the US. And it just sewed through this, no hand start, with no difficulty at all. Now let's look at that lock stitch on the back side. And thankfully, elk hide has a fairly flat nap. So you'll be able to see right away my concern. My concern is we don't have that lock stitch defined enough. There's certain weak spots in it where you can see the thread did not have enough oomph for that upper tension to pull it up as that needle swept down through this thick layer of genuine elk hide, and it was trying to pull that thread back up and make it nice and defined and nice and taut. It didn't have enough oomph. It didn't have enough power. And right away, you can see that. All in all, it starts to come together real nicely, but then you can see where things don't have enough power to pull it in across the finish line. Look at that real closely. Try to get even closer if I can. Right there, especially on the far right hand side of the screen, right there, you can actually see where that knot was not pulled all the way up. You see that? So we're going to make a slight little adjustment. I mean, look at the leather we're dealing with. This is not a light sew off. We're going to make a little adjustment and we'll sew this one more time. So looking at our upper tension right now, we're set right around on 4. We're set right around on 4. We're going to bump it up to just shy of 5. Just shy of 5. We're going to bump it up a little bit more, up a little bit more, up a little bit more. I'm going to stop right there. I took it up about 0.5. So we started at 4 and we're at about 4.5, a little bit beyond that maybe. We're going to stitch it one more time and see if we can really give some definition, some clear definition to that lock stitch that on a couple of points as we're looking at along here, it's not as sharp, it's not as finished as it should be. So we'll give it one more run and see what we think. Same stitch, a slight adjustment to that upper tension, slight adjustment. All right, here we go. And you saw when I launched, I was kind of light. I was really light on that French made foot controller. I kind of eased into it a little bit slow. And for just a second, you may have noticed that needle hit this thick elk hide and it had just a brief little pause. That gives you an idea of what amount of power is needed to be able to go through a material like this, especially using a non-leather needle. Especially using a non-leather needle. All right, we're going to look at that lock stitch again and see if we brought impact with that slight adjustment. And if you're brand new to sewing or you don't know a thing about sewing, but you just think, hey, those people have fun on this cow country channel and I want to check it out. Maybe I'll start sewing if I feel so inspired based on that goofy guy from Wisconsin. Then with the way the tension works on sewing machines, the real basic thumbnail sketch for you of understanding tension. When you're sewing something like this, genuine elk hide, and we're holding it like this, like we would sew it, holding it like this. This upper tension right here is going to be pulling up for all it's worth to define that lock stitch on the bottom of this leather. The bobbin case in the raceway right here is going to be pulling down to define the top stitch that we're looking at right now. So they're in a constant tug of war. This is pulling up, this is pulling down, and eventually they have to become friends so that we get that knot as centered as possible in the material so that we don't see it on top and we don't see it on the bottom. We don't see it on the top, we don't see it on the bottom. That's really the key. And it looks like Susie just asked a question. I'll answer it as soon as we take a look at this stitching. So we're going to look at the top stitch first because whenever you make an adjustment on a sewing machine to try to address a tension issue, if you go too far, you might correct one thing and you might make the other side of the material have an issue. In other words, we made a slight bump up on the upper tension to try to get a better defined lock stitch on the bottom. If we go too far in adjusting this up too high, what we do then is we can take away the definition of the top stitch, because then all of a sudden this that started out weaker all of a sudden becomes too dominant and it takes away the definition that that bobbin case down below is trying to give to that top stitch. I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense as I'm explaining it. So let's look at the top stitch first to make sure that we didn't steal away the definition of that top stitch. And it looks like we didn't. We did not. That top stitch looks just as spot on, just as page 34 in the top row, which we did first, and then the bottom row we did second. Beautiful stitch definition, beautiful formation, beautiful spacing. Just as it should be. And again, if you joined us late, look at the thickness of what we just went through. That's genuine elk hide. That is the thick of thick. And yet this 1980s machine, other than me being too light on the foot controller, it launched right in. It launched right in once I gave it enough gas. And Susie had pointed out something that's really, really smart. She said, could it be that it's a belt driven machine instead of direct drive? Not in this case. Not in this case, because if it were a belt issue, what we would have heard is we would have heard the machine slip. In other words, we would have heard the motor kind of rev up and then the machine would have started moving. We didn't hear that. What we heard is the machine basically hit that leather with not enough gas. It didn't have enough momentum to get through that leather. Again, look at the thickness of it. And then all of a sudden, I gave it more gas and it went through very nicely. So belts can slip over time, especially as they get glazed, as they get worn, as they stretch out a little bit more, they start to slip on the output pulley of that motor because that output pulley is spinning up with a lot of speed and it can slip over that belt and you don't get the proper launch. But in this instance, it was my fault. It was my fault. I didn't give it enough gas with that French made foot controller. The motor and the foot controller were ready to rock and roll, and I was a little bit of a wimp when it came to giving it enough gas. And so it didn't launch into that with enough gusto. Now we're going to look at that lock stitch on the back and see if we made it better. I just want to look real quick to make sure I've got it orientated correctly. My glasses are not very clean, so I'm going to double check. Okay, I have it orientated correctly. So this is our lock stitch again. This is controlled by that upper tension that we bumped up a little bit to try to get better lock stitch definition. The top row is our first one. The bottom row is our second one. Top row first, bottom row second. You're going to see that we tightened up those weak areas and we moved that knot that you could literally see because we didn't have enough pull-up power with that lock, with that upper tension. We moved that knot closer into the middle of this leather. And now we've got a good looking lock stitch and a good looking top stitch as well. Take a look at those real close. Notice right there, especially just to the right of the screen, you can actually see the knot kind of presenting itself a little bit, kind of sticking out of the leather. But if you compare it to that bottom row, after we bumped up the upper tension, now all of a sudden that knot has disappeared and it's somewhere right towards the center of that leather as it should be. And you can even look at the lines of that zigzag on the bottom row where we made that upper tension adjustment up. The edges of that zigzag are even sharper. They're even sharper and better defined because there was sufficient tension to give it that definition. It's almost like weightlifters that do certain weightlifting techniques to try to get better cuts or better definition of their muscles. That's what we're doing with our tension on the machine. We're giving better definition to the muscle of that stitch to make it pop better than that top row did initially. So, can a 1980s, specifically, can a 1984 ish sewing machine do leather sewing? The answer is yes. But again, certain parts of this machine are not going to be engineered necessarily to the same level as maybe an earlier vintage Singer. Some of the parts may have gone plastic, some of the parts may have gone Teflon. But if you keep the machine properly maintained, occasional leather sewing on a machine like this is possible. It is possible, and you can generate gorgeous page 34 stitching like this on the, I'm having to look, on the lock stitch and also on the top stitch as well. Yeah, it seems to be the camera doesn't like lighter. It likes the material to be darker, doesn't it? It likes it to be darker, but definitely not bright colors. And then the camera responds to it a little bit more favorably, doesn't it? It likes this leather a lot better than that cotton that I was using because that cotton was lighter colored. But some beautiful stitching all the way around through a very thick layer of genuine elk hide. So I'll move that to the back as well with our cotton sew off. Let's mess around with some more stitching with this machine and see how we do. See how we do. The one thing you'll notice as well as you're looking at this machine from the faceplate side, and again, I don't call it a nose plate or whatever weird terms certain folks are coming up with now. This is the faceplate. It's always been the faceplate. It's not a nose plate, but whatever. You don't see any adjustment for presser foot, do you? You don't see an adjustment for presser foot on this model 6212C. It's going to be an auto type adjustment on this machine. You could manipulate it if you take this faceplate off. There's a screw right there. There's a screw on top as well, and then you can wiggle this off for doing maintenance and lubrication. And there is a way, it's not real easy, but there is a way to make an adjustment to this presser foot pressure if you're going to be sewing a constant flow of material, whatever it is. It might be bubblegum material, it might be compressed felt, it might be silk, it might be satin, and then you could not easily, but you could mechanically adjust this presser foot pressure. But there's not a quick adjustment on top. There's not a quick adjustment on the back. There's not a quick adjustment on the front of the faceplate or on the front of the machine. And that was one thing that they elected to do with this particular model and other similar models, is they elected to not give control to that sewist as far as being able to easily adjust presser foot pressure. It's going to be an automatic type thing. And a number of machines were designed that way, weren't they? So, looks like Candido is having to step away. No problem. You have a great rest of the day, my friend. You have a great rest of the day. So let's try some other sew-offs with this machine from the 1980s. Maybe we'll do some of this compressed felt. We'll do 2 layers of it. You can kind of see what we're working with there. And this is not, again, the felt you would use in school back in the day. This is going to be a heat-treated type felt where they go over it with a heat pressure and they really compress the fibers of this felt to make it a lot more difficult. All right, let me slide this into place. I just got a text message. I think it was from Susie, and let me see if I can answer that message real quick, or that question, once I get this into position. This is also going to have one of those presser feet that is a snap-on. I'm not a big fan of snap-on feet because they allow a little bit of a pivoting of that presser foot attachment as the machine is trying to sew. It causes a little bit of a swivel instead of that presser foot being more in a pivot front to back. It can pivot from side to side as well, and I'm not a fan of that. Not a fan of that, but that's what this machine is set up with. Let me take a look at the question real quick. Okay, the question comes from Susie from Minnesota. Part of my leadership team is bringing this question forward from it looks like the Outboard Motor Tinker has a question, and it is, how did I get into sewing machines, and do you have a video on it? Well, how I got into sewing machines was really kind of a fluke. And do I have a video on how I got into sewing machines? I don't think I do. I might have talked about that when I interviewed Alex Askaroff. and that's under the playlist of VIP interviews on this channel if you want to check it out. So you just look for playlists, and then look for VIP interviews, and you'll see that interview I did with Alex Askarov. I think as we were chatting for a couple of hours, I might have talked about how I got into it, but how I got into it was I started at a very young age working on cars with my dad. My dad was a master mechanic. Also, he grew up on a farm type setting. And if you don't know it, farmers tend to be really, really gifted when it comes to fixing things. They have to be. They have to be able to fix things on the farm, and so they become very clever about mechanical things, electrical things, otherwise. And so, at a very young age, around probably around 7 or 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old, I was still quite young. I started working with cars in the garage with my dad in Wisconsin, and that garage initially was not heated. It didn't have any source of heat. And so I was shivering out there in the garage as my dad and I are adjusting carburetors, doing brake jobs, doing exhaust jobs, doing partial motor rebuilds, and a number of other mechanical things to various cars that we owned and also that belonged to friends and family. And so I began at a very young age, around 7 years old, to begin developing skills of intuition when it came to working on things that were mechanical. Initially, it was family cars. Eventually, when I got older, because I worked for many, many years in the garage with my dad. Eventually, we got heat. There's the great news. Eventually, dad added a heater to the garage and I didn't have to shiver as much. But I love being with my dad. I think many of you have stories to tell as well, where you made sacrifices of being with your mom or your dad, and it wasn't always the most pleasant experience, but it was an incredible experience of building that memory with that mom, with that dad that you loved. You just love being with them. I love being with my dad. I love learning from him. Again, being a student and him being the teacher. And then as I grew older working with my dad, I got greater insights into these mechanical, electrical troubleshooting issues that we encountered with all of these cars that came through the garage. And eventually they became some of my cars. Some of my cars that I owned, like that Dodge Dart that I got as a free gift from a college professor, that it was stuck in his driveway and he was utterly convinced that car would never run again. And I was the first hand to go up in that classroom saying, "I'll take it. I'll take it." Because I didn't have a dedicated car at that point, and I wanted to own a car myself. And I never told the college professor this, but my dad and I towed it back to our garage that I spent so many winters shivering in. And within 30 to 35 minutes, dad and I had that Dodge Dart running like it was brand new. Brand new. And I drove that car for a number of summers and also drove it over to Michigan when I worked at a summer camp when I was going through college to kind of earn extra money during the summertime. Any of you ever hear of Kalamazoo, Michigan? I worked at a summer camp in Kalamazoo, Michigan, driving that car that my college professor, and he was a really smart guy. He said it would never run again. Well, dad and I had it running in about 30 minutes. And then I drove that for a number of summers and drove it over there as well. And so, anyway, getting to the ultimate machines, during that phase of learning with my dad in that cold garage in Wisconsin, during that phase, one of my aunts brought a sewing machine over that was having difficulties. I'm going to say I was around 9 years old when she did that initially. I was around 9 years old, and Aunt Rose, just down the street from us on Diane Avenue in Racine, Wisconsin, brought over a sewing machine that was having difficulties. It wasn't stitching right. The hook timing was off. It was having tension issues. A couple of other things was going on with that machine that Aunt Rose had. And she initially approached my dad because he was the teacher. I was the student. She approached dad, and dad said, in a polite way, but dad was a retired Marine. So dad's level of politeness sometimes had that little Marine edge to it. And he was a little bit short with Aunt Rose and said, "Oh, I'm not going to mess around with a sewing machine. That's not my thing." And so he kind of turned my aunt down, and my aunt turned to me, knowing that I was the apprentice learning from the master mechanic, and said, "Scott, would you be willing to try getting this machine working properly?" And I said, "Of course, Aunt Rose. You never say no to a very powerful aunt in an Armenian family." I grew up as an Armenian. My mom was Armenian, and the Armenian sisters, you never said no to them. It was like saying no to the mafia. And so when Aunt Rose brought that sewing machine to me, it might have been something like this one, similar to that, maybe a stylist. And I asked her to explain to me, what is it supposed to do? What is it? If it's doing things right, what does that look like? And so she gave me a real clear picture of what looked right to her. And so I started making adjustments on this machine that Aunt Rose brought to me. And eventually, through my mom, she called Aunt Rose back down and she said, "I think Scott's done with it." And my aunt gave me the biggest hug that I've ever gotten in my entire life. She pulled me in, Armenians, Italians, people that are Latino, and I could name a number of other ethnic groups. They know what a real hug looks like. They give you a real hug. It's not a sissy fake hug like you see on TV sometimes. It's that quick little eep and you're done. No, it's a deep, serious, "I'm excited, I love you" hug. And that's what Aunt Rose did after we did a little bit of stitching on her machine. And she said, "It's better than when I bought it new." And that was my cue as an 8 or 9-year-old kid that I had some potential working on sewing machines. So that's kind of how I launched into it to answer our friend's question. And it just kind of grew out of that. I want to say real quick hello to Sarah as well. I just saw Sarah pop up on my phone, and welcome to Sarah as well. And it looks like she is from the great state of North Carolina. So it's great to have Sarah here as well. So, but that's how I got into it. And there was lull and there was, points of doing more of it, less of it, none of it as I was going through college and eventually military service as well. But eventually I really started to anchor myself down and do more of this and more of it and more of it. And now for almost 12 to 15 years, it's been it's been all I do. It's all I do. So, yeah, I mean that's start with cars and go from cars to sewing machines, and there's others that are mechanically oriented that could probably tell similar stories where you start on something that's mechanical and you segue into other mechanical things. Yeah. So, anyway, that's the long and short story of how I got into sewing machines. The long and short story. And like I say, sometimes a teacher, always a student. Always, always, always a student. All right, let's do this compressed felt now. 2 layers of it. If you were to equate the thickness of this to leather, it would be about 8 to 10 ounces of leather. So it's a thick sew off. And again, this compressed felt is not standard felt like you would have used in school. It's going to be heat treated felt that's very, very difficult to get through. It's got a high piercing threshold. High piercing threshold. All right, let's do a zigzag on this, and we'll see what we get. We'll see what we get. Yeah. All right. 3.5 is what I have this set on. Stitch length 3.5. Let's see. Yeah, I'll leave it right there. Set it on zigzag, zigzag. Yeah, let's buzz down this and see what we think of this. And I've got to make sure my take-up arm is all the way up. All right, here we go. And I'm not going to use my little clips. I'm just going to try to hold these 2 pieces together as best as I can. All right, here we go. And I'll try not to embarrass our friends in France. I'll get my foot squarely planted on that French-made foot controller and see if I can launch this better than I did the last time when I was going through that genuine elk hide. All right, here we go. And again, that up and down, you hear that fluttering. That's me. That's not the foot controller. That's not the machine. I'm just varying my speed as I'm going down, varying my speed. All right. Bring that to the rear. I'm going to lay down one more stitch on this, and I think I'll move into that. What would you like to see on this compressed felt? I've got these 2 layers of compressed felt. I just laid down a zigzag, and I'll show that to you. But I also want to lay down another stitch to it. Should we do a blind hem? Should we do the applique stitch that Susie had given us the name of? or should we do the 3-point zigzag down this compressed felt? Or we could do a straight stitch, but that's kind of, when you have all those other choices, it's almost a little bit boring, isn't it? But we could do a straight stitch. We could do a blind hem on these 2 layers of compressed felt. We could do the 3-point zigzag, or we could do the applique type stitch that I initially was calling a stretch blind hem, but we can do the applique stitch as well on these 2 layers of compressed felt, and see what you all think of that. Christine from Canada is saying, Scott, let's do applique. So let's do applique. I'm going to get this back into position, get that presser foot down. And some of you, I was a little bit critical. I was a little bit critical of the presser foot attached snap-on style. Some of you might love snap-on presser foot attachments. They're so convenient. You pull it off, you pop it on, you pull it off, you pop it on, blah, blah, blah. But it's that little swivel. You know, if I raise the presser foot right now and get the camera fairly close, you can kind of look at that presser foot. Let me see if you can see that. There we go. I think it's fairly focused. You know, you're used to the pivoting back and forth like this. That's normal. Let me shut off the light real quick. That's normal when it pivots back and forth like this. That's totally normal. But I don't like the swivel from side to side. See that swivel from side to side it gets? It just makes me a little bit uneasy how it swivels from side to side. But, you know, maybe that's just me. That might just be me. So I like the ones that screw on and they're firm and fast and they don't swivel. They don't do a lot of movement when you're trying to use them. So, all right, let's do that applique stitch. So I got to move my slider all the way down to 6, to this one right here. And then we have to make a decision. I want your input, please. Give me your input. Where should we put stitch length? We've got a choice of 1 to 5 on stitch length. And on stitch width, we have a choice of 1 to 4. So on the live chat, if you would, on the live chat, give me either a length and a number, like an L1, L2, L3, L4, whatever. I'm not helping you because I'm pointing at the stitch width. An L1, L2, L3, L4, or L5 for stitch length. And then give me a W as far as stitch width that I should set it on for this applique stitch that Christine from Canada wants to see. So give me like a W2 and an L2, or a W3 and an L3, or maybe an L2. I don't know. But give me something so that I can set this machine up, and we'll do this next sew off on these 2 layers of compressed felt. We've already laid down a gorgeous zigzag. That's our top stitch. Gorgeous zigzag on our lock stitch as well. I think you can see that, sort of. Yeah. Now we're going to lay down an applique stitch next to it. So I'm going to see what you say as far as settings. See what you say as far as settings. So we got 1 input so far from my good friend Susie over in Minnesota. She's saying go with a W4 and go with an L5. Come on, let's get some other input. What do you guys think? Give me a W number, an L number, and then we'll meet in the middle. Otherwise, if no one else responds, I'll go with Susie's. I'll go with Susie's settings. See if there's any other response. And while I'm seeing if there's going to be another response, I'm going to get a quick drink of water. I haven't drunk anything during this live stream so far, and we've been running almost 3 hours. Oh my gosh. What's going on? Almost 3 hours. That's crazy. That's insane. Ha! Oh, that water tastes good. Yes, it does. Well, no one during the live stream, no one that's in the live stream or has been in the live stream apparently wants a free pack. No one wants a free pack of double-eye Schmetz needles. You don't want them because no one has sent me a text message or no one has called me to say, this is why I love being part of the cow country family. This is why I love being part of a vintage family or blah, blah, blah. So that's okay. I'll hang on to these and find another way to potentially give them away. That's okay. All right. Emma's chiming in saying, what about an L3 and a W5? So far we've got an let's see. So far we have an L5 and a W4 from Susie. We've got an L3 and a W5 from Emma. Yeah. So let's meet in the middle. What would be the middle point? We got a length 5 and we got a length 3. So let's do a length of 4. A length of 4 would be right in the middle of what Susie and Emma gave. So I'm going to adjust the stitch length over to 4. Stitch length is on 4 now. And let's see, W4 and W5. So I'm going to do 4.5 as far as the stitch width. That'll give us a middle point between what those two ladies picked. 4.5 on stitch width and a 4 on stitch length. So where would 4.5 be? It'd be right about where we are right now here. Because that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know if we can go 4 point. See, our stitch width only, ladies, we got a little bit of a dilemma. Our stitch width is really only going to go up to 4. So if I misspoke before and I said 5, I was wrong. Because here we've got this one right here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I go to the very max, I could go to the very max unless you want to revise your stitch width, but I can't go to 4.5. I can only go up to 4, and I definitely can't go up to 5. So maybe we'll just go with a max of 4 on stitch width, and then we'll have a 4 on stitch length as well. It'll be a 4x4. That's the best I can do. That's the best I can do as far as the two middle points of what you selected. So let's lay down that applique stitch now. We'll lay down that applique stitch now on these 2 layers of compressed felt and see what we think of that. And I'll try not to embarrass the French anymore. Otherwise, I'm going to get nasty notes from the French people about how I'm not using their foot controller and I'm underserving or overserving their motor. I don't want to get nasty notes from French people because they can get pretty testy, right? They can get pretty emotional. All right, here we go. Let's give this a try. See what we think. Here we go. Oh, when I was showing you the presser foot, I shut the power off on the machine. Now the power's back. I'm pushing on the French foot controller and I'm going, nothing's happening. What did I do? I shut the power off. Yeah, it's like calling tech support. Turn it on, turn it back on again, right? Turn it off, turn it back on again. All right, here we go now. All right. Yeah, to me, as I look at this applique stitch, and maybe you'll agree as you look at it, it kind of looks like a stretch blind hem, but maybe I don't know. I don't know. But with those settings that we settled on, boy, is that sucker big, huh? That is big. That thing is like, hey, look at me, hey. All right, almost got it. Almost got it. All right, top stitch first, and hopefully the camera likes this green. I hope it likes this green. So our top stitch first, again, we're sewing through 2 layers of compressed felt. So we'll look at that first from this angle. This is our top stitch. We'll turn it over and look at that lock stitch now. Yeah, some really good looking stitching. And the only thing, I guess, the only thing that differs it from a stretch blind hem is that you can see there's a little bit of a peak in those center points between the stitching, whereas a stretch blind hem would have straight stitching evenly across between those two different peaks on the sew off. So that's the only variation that I can see. And again, if we were to take those settings that Susie and Emma gave us, and we were to shorten up that stitch length and we were to tighten up that stitch width, we could change the look of this applique stitch dramatically, dramatically, give it a totally different look than it has right now. But it's some really, really good stitching by this 1980s model 6212C, 6212C. I'm gonna set that in the back. And now we're gonna try to wrap this up because I didn't realize until I looked at the clock on the live stream how long we've already run. This has been a really long live stream. And that's okay. That's okay for us to spend time like that. But I've got some other choices for us, and then we'll wrap up this live stream. We can do some more leather sewing. I've got protected full grain leather. I've got saddle grade leather. I've got bubblegum material. Kind of see why it's called bubblegum material if you're new to this channel. My finger actually slipped off. It's so springy. So we got the bubblegum material. We got the different leathers. We've got, what else? I only have a single layer. Well, no, I've got two layers of this. I've got some of this satin as well. This satin makes me a little bit nervous because it's so rice paper thin. And again, I don't have a way of adjusting the presser foot pressure on this model. So that kind of makes me a little bit nervous, but whatever. And Christine, and this is where we can agree to disagree, right? We can agree to disagree agreeably, as we used to say. Christine is looking at that stitch and she's saying, I don't know if that's an applique stitch. I don't know if that's an applique stitch or not. So what? Who cares? And I only say who cares because you know me well enough by now. I make up stitch names all the time. I make up stitch names, and if the manufacturers or other people that are in charge of giving us the official stitch name, like in an instruction manual, they're looking at me and they're going, that knucklehead, why is he calling it that name? Why is he calling it that name? Because I can. It's our YouTube channel, and we can call stuff whatever we want to call it. So Christine or Susie might put their heads together as two of people that I respect and I love on my leadership team, and they might come up with a brand new name. They might come up with a brand new name for this stitch that it's not a stretch, it's not a stretch blind hem, it's not an applique stitch. And they might come up with a totally different name. I don't know. We'll have to keep an eye on that, see what they come up with, possibly. All right, so I got one vote for bubblegum. I'm going to set the other ones to the side right now, and I'm going to see if I can sew on this bubblegum material. What stitch should we try doing on this bubblegum material? We can do any of these stitches that this machine has. We can do a straight stitch. We can do a zigzag. We can do a blind hem. We can do a 3-point zigzag. We can do a blah, blah, blah stitch. So number 6 is our blah, blah, blah stitch. Our 3-point zigzag is number 5, number 4, number 3, number 2. What do you think? What should we do on this bubblegum material? Now, I know what Jenny means. I know what Jenny means, but the way she wrote it, it sounds like she stepped away and ran 60 miles and then and she's not even out of breath. Doesn't that bug you that people can run and they're not even out of breath? But you know what? There's magical powers among our Amish friends, and they make beautiful furniture. They do other beautiful things, and apparently they're very good runners too. So Apparently, they're very good runners. Okay, so Jenny is saying a straight stitch. I don't see any other votes. I don't see any other votes. So we're going to do a variety of stitches on this, I think. Now, the other choice I have to make is, do I do a single layer? Probably do a single layer. Or do I do 2 layers of this? What do you guys think? And I'll grab out my fancy Gutenheim scissors. And I'll cut my edge a little bit straighter. Oh, wow. Just like a hot knife through butter. Just like a hot knife through butter. So we can do 2 layers or 1 layer. It's up to you guys. Turkey hunters this morning. Okay, cool. All right. No votes, no input, no anything. So we're going to do a single layer. We'll do a single layer. And we will do a straight stitch to start. So I've got to change a cup on the machine to get a straight stitch. I'm going to move this all the way down there. Then I have to come over here and I have to move our slider all the way back over to there. And then we're going to lay down, say like about a 4. That's almost at the total max. We'll lay down 4 as far as a straight stitch on this material. And then we'll lay down some other stitching next to it, I think. Well, speaking of Jenny is talking about turkey hunters this morning. Did all of you see my little video clip on Facebook about the turkeys that crossed in front of me? I think many of you did. But I've got the funniest little clip of turkeys passing in front of me as I'm on what is like a rural highway. And they think that they are in charge. You know, they're going to stand in front of me. They don't care that I'm driving a big SUV. And they had a lot of fun with me. I had fun with them too. So, but if you didn't see that, it's on Facebook under the reels that are on the Cow Country Facebook page. All right. So let's do a straight stitch. And then we'll lay down some other stitching next to it. And this bubblegum material obviously has a lot of in it. And so it tends to make sewing a little bit more challenging. All right, here we go. We took that really, really slow. And that's okay. All right, so we laid down our straight stitch. Now we're going to lay down some stitching next to it. I'll just pick some random stitches for fun. All right, what should we lay down next? Let's see here. Get this lined up. Now I'm not going to show this to you. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to move it now over to the zigzag. I think I'll do kind of a mid-range zigzag. So I just set up our zigzag. We'll see what our zigzag looks like on this bubblegum material now. All right, so I laid down a zigzag. Now we'll buzz over to the blind hem. And then we'll look at all these together. Look at all of this stitching together. Yeah. Our tension continues to maintain well. I didn't adjust it back. Remember, we bumped it up a little bit for that genuine elk hide. I've just left it where it's at. And I think we're close enough that it should be okay. All right, now our blind hem. I'm going to adjust this down. I'm going to take our stitch length quite a ways down. Right around to probably 1 3/4. I'll leave the stitch width alone. So our stitch width I'm leaving pretty much alone. Stitch length I took quite a ways down. Now we're going to do that blind hem on the bubblegum material. There, I made our French friends very happy. I kind of went pedal to the metal and just kind of buzzed down that puppy. Had some fun with that one. Okay, so that's our blind hem. I'll give you a quick glimpse of what we've done so far, just so you can kind of see it. So we've done the straight stitch that Jenny wanted to see. Then we did a zigzag, and then we just laid down a blind hem stitch. Kind of show that to you, and then we'll kind of buzz down and lay down a couple other stitches on this as well. Got a lot of room, don't I? That's what we've done so far. Maybe I'll hold it like that. There it is. And again, this is not an easy material to sew because it has all of that vinyl in it. That's why it stretches like bubblegum material. And yet this machine from the 1980s did a real brilliant job of maintaining some really beautiful stitch quality. There's our lock stitch. The only thing I'm seeing with this high vinyl content material is with that straight stitch, we might want to consider bumping up that upper tension just a little bit to tighten up that straight stitch even a little bit more. But all in all, really quite lovely. Get real close there. Yeah. If I were sewing a ton of this, I would bump up our upper tension just a little bit. But all in all, really quite a lovely stitch. Lock stitch, top stitch. But it goes to show you as you're moving through a field of materials, you might have to tweak that upper tension just a little bit to fine tune that stitch in a little bit more. So now let's do that 3-point zigzag right next to it. And I'm going to leave all of my settings pretty much the same. Move that 3-point zigzag. I'm just going to narrow this down. Well, I'll leave that right about the same. All right, so let's do that 3-point zigzag now down this bubblegum material. And again, I'll make our people in France happy, the people that contributed their talents to making the motor and the controller for this machine. I'll go ahead and give it enough gas that we can kind of demonstrate that 0.75 amp motor power as we lay down this 3-point zigzag. All right, here we go. And that's only a fraction. That's only a fraction of that power. I'm in the upper part of that foot controller for sure. Definitely in the upper part. Yeah, I like that. And now we'll do our final stitch that we're still trying to come up with a name for. So we'll call it our mystery stitch. So this is what we've done so far. Yeah, very nice. Very, very nice. Now we'll move over to number 6. Over to that one. And our stitch length setting right now is right around 1.75. Trying to think of what we got as far as output the last time. I'm going to make that a little bit shorter. I'm going to shorten this up quite a bit just to have a little bit of fun. So we're right now at about 1.75. I'm going to bring this down to about 1 for stitch length. But we're going to make that a little bit wider than we are right now. So right now we're set right about there. We're going to bring this over to right about there. We're not at the max, but we're pretty close to the max. So what we've done is we've tightened up that stitch length dramatically, and now we've expanded that stitch width a little bit on this mystery stitch, whatever this puppy, whatever we end up calling this puppy, or we're going to have multiple names for it, multiple names for this stitch. And I still see a picture. I still have a picture on my laptop, so I don't know what's going on. Did some of you lose a picture? Susie said she lost picture, but I'm looking at the live chat right now on my phone and the live stream on my phone right now. And I have good picture. Do I have audio? Let me bump my audio up real quick. And I have good picture. Do I have audio? Let me bump my audio up real quick. So I have audio and picture right now on my end. So it might be a localized issue for you. It might be a localized issue for you right now. So yeah, just reboot your computer if you got a little glitch, and we should be good to go. We should be good to go. And yeah, I mean, technology just drives you buggy, doesn't it? Technology drives me buggy anyway. So I'll be interested to see what this mystery stitch ends up looking like, because we're going to have a wide stitch, but we're going to have a short stitch as far as stitch length on this, whatever this puppy is. Maybe we'll call it the, what do they call it? The heartbeat thing. The heartbeat thing that people talk about, when they're looking at that thing and the heartbeat is going. It almost looks like it could be a heartbeat, or maybe like an earthquake thing for our people that live in California, that Richter scale thing or whatever. I have no idea. But whatever we end up calling this, we're going to try number 6, really short and pretty doggone wide, really, really wide. So let's see what we get. Let's see what we get. This should be interesting. Should be interesting. Yeah. All right. All right, here we go. Strap yourself in. We're getting ready to launch. French power. French power. Oh, interesting. This is interesting. It almost, with what we just did to it, again, we went really short, but we went wide. Short, but wide. It almost looks like that one stitch, the combing stitch or something. The comb stitch, blah, blah. I have no idea. Take a look at it and see what you think. That's fun. I like what we did to it. I like what we did to it. And I think Jeannine, the owner of this machine, again from the little town of Lena, Wisconsin. If you want to have fun, look up Lena, Wisconsin. They've got a great ice cream place there. We're talking about flavors and how we can all design our own stitches in a sense by choosing the width and the length. That's our flavor of that stitch. Lena, Wisconsin has a wonderful ice cream place there that I've gone to once or twice. Oh my gosh. They got ice cream there, man. They got ice cream. Yeah, they do. All right. So let's take a look at that. EKG, yes. EKG, that's what I was trying to remember. And Susie got it as well. Susie got it actually before Emma, but Emma's at work, so let's give her a break, okay? So yeah, an EKG. Maybe we could call that our EKG stitch thingy, what do you call it? So here's what we did on this bubblegum material. Again, why do I call it bubblegum? All right, top stitch. Top stitch, we'll look at those first. Yes. Yes. I may have gone a little bit too short on that EKG stitch, but you know what? That's okay. That's okay. All right, what about the lock stitch? What are we going to see on the lock stitch? Here's our lock stitch now on those stitches that we just did on this bubblegum material. So here again, I'm seeing using this type of material, we would have to look at a heavier upper tension. Do you see it too? All in all, the stitching looks pretty good, but we could make it better by bumping that upper tension up even higher, working on this material that's heavily laden with vinyl. A lot of vinyl in this bubblegum stuff. Do it like this too. So yeah, if you look at the stitching together, this is our top stitching. Really, really nice sharp lines, nice sharp definition. And then we turn it over, we look at that lock stitch on this heavily laden vinyl material. We're a little bit weak, a little bit muddy, um, with this bubblegum material. If we were going to sew this all day long, we'd bump up that upper tension quite a bit, wouldn't we? And really, really sharpen up that lock stitch. We just wouldn't want to go too far because then we would take away from the top stitch, right? There it is. So it's a passable lock stitch, but we could make it really, really wow if we were to go ahead and bump up that upper tension even further, right? Yeah. Then we would have more of a balance with what we're getting on this side. But I always say it doesn't matter because we know what to do. If we want to make that lock stitch look a little bit more poppy, we bump up our upper tension. If we want to make that top stitch look a little bit more poppy, which we don't need in this instance, then we go ahead and bump down that upper tension so that that bobbin case can pull down with more definition on that top stitch. Yeah, that's fun, isn't it? Isn't it fun learning and also understanding what to do? Because a lot of people struggle with tension. You see it all over the internet. You see it in blogs. You see it in videos. And some of those people get it. Some of those people don't. And they're actually confusing people even more. So you guys are smart. You know what to do to affect the top stitch and the lock stitch, and you can do that. So, not to mention, if we were going to sew this type of material a lot, we wouldn't be sewing with a 90-14 needle like we are now. We would go down to a 75-11 embroidery needle like I've done in the past. I know I've sewn bubblegum material with a 75-11 embroidery needle, and the product we get as far as stitch quality is off the charts. So, really, our needle size is a little bit too big for sewing some of these utility, blah, blah, blah pattern type stitches, right? Yeah. I got to grab my scissors again. I got to grab them. And again, if you want a pair of these, write a review on Cow Country. And on Tuesday, I'll see if I can read through them again. Our audience can vote on the one that they like. They can't pick Madeline because Madeline already won. Madeline already won a pair of these. But if someone else wants to win a pair of these, they come in a beautiful box, 9-inch box. I've got it upside down. You get a box really suitable for gift giving, isn't it? You win a pair of these. Write a review on Cow Country. If you've already written a review, that's fine. I'll read all those reviews on Tuesday, and then you can try to you can vote for yourself too, by the way. Vote for yourself, have others join the live stream, vote for you, and then you can win one of these really super cool pairs of Guggenheim professional tailoring scissors. Watch this. It's ridiculous. All the way to the point. All the way to the point. It cuts through. You couldn't see that, could you? All right, I'll do it again. All the way to the point. Oh, these are nice. Madeline's going to love these. I haven't gotten them sent out yet. See, then you can trim it on this edge too. Trim it all the way down to the point. Look at that. It cut all the way through, all the way to the point, all the way to the point. Oh, I love them. I love them. I'm giving a big hug to the Gutenheim people right now. So yeah, I mean, it did a really good job with this bubblegum material, didn't it? It did a really good job with this bubblegum material. A very tricky material to sew. But again, we would tweak that upper tension for this lock stitch a little bit, wouldn't we? Yeah, we would. All right, let me throw it to the back. If you joined us late, what we've done so far is we've sewn this 100% cotton and done a brilliant job with this. We've done genuine elk hide, probably about 4, almost 5 ounces of heavy grade leather as well, generating some beautiful stitching. We did this compressed felt, that green stuff, and then we just did our bubblegum material as well. Yeah. So some beautiful stitching all the way around. We've already done a little mini sewing Olympics, haven't we? We've already done a little bit of a sewing Olympics, but we're going to do a couple more things for fun. Couple more things for fun. I'm not going to do any more elk hide. I'm going to save that for Tuesday. Did we do protected full? We did not do protected full grain leather yet. Protected full grain leather is a very tough leather to sew. Very, very tough. And you can see right there, if we did 2 layers of this to see if we could put that French 0.75 amp motor to the test, this would be a heavy, heavy, tough sew off, wouldn't it? That's like thicker than a belt. So we could definitely do 2 layers of protected full grain leather, like a strength test for this 1980s model, blah, blah, blah. I almost got it, 6212C. Ha! For this model 6212C, we could sew through 2 layers of this protected full grain leather. And again, this is a leather that's chemically treated to protect it from staining and to give it more durability. So it's really a tough leather to get through. It's super, super tough. But I think that this French, Brazilian, US conglomerate machine, blah, 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 can hopefully get it done, right? Maybe. You never know. Yeah. I might give it a try. 2 layers of protected full grain leather. You see what happens. Don't you love that voice of confidence? It makes me nervous because I can't bump up that presser foot pressure. I can't adjust the presser foot pressure on this model 6212C. It's an auto type thing going on. You know what I mean? So I'm probably going to lay down a zigzag down this. It's not going to be a super wide zigzag, but I'll lay down a zigzag and maybe I'll lay down our EKG stitch next to it. What do you think? Through 2 layers of protected full grain leather. And Susie's right. I need to be careful. I don't want to push this machine too far. Remember when I did that giveaway for that 170th anniversary hand crank? The one that Singer put out to recognize their 170th anniversary? And I tried to push that replica machine that was made in India. I tried to push it too far and I broke it during the live stream. I fixed it again and I went back and finished another live stream type thing showing off that wonderful 170th anniversary. It was a class 15 hand crank. Remember that machine? If you don't remember that, check it out on this channel. Really quite a cool machine, a beautiful machine, but not quite made to the standards of our hardcore vintage machines. And that's why I kind of broke it, but I fixed it again and then we went back to it again. So any rate, I hope I don't break this machine because it's done really, really well up to this point, right? It's done really, really well. And I know I've got a great needle in there. I've got a Schmetz needle. We love Schmetz. Schmetz loves cow country. That's why they're following us. So I don't think we're going to break a needle. I hope we don't break a machine. Yeah, let's not break a machine. That would be bad. All right, let's see what happens. And I think I'll lay down a zigzag on this. So I'm going to move my selector back over to 3. Moved our selector over to 3. And what should we do for length? Let's bump our length up to about 3.5. So our stitch length is 3.5. Our width is going to be right around 3. Let's do the width at 3. Let's do the length at 3.5. And let's see what happens. I might actually make this a 3 too. I'll make this like a 3.25. 3.25 on length, zigzag, 3 on width. And now we're going to try to go through 2 layers of protected full grain leather. I'm a little bit nervous. Just a little bit nervous. Not really super crazy nervous. All right, let's see what happens. And I'm gonna ease into this a little bit. So you might see that needle hit those 2 layers of protected full grain leather and stop. You might just see it stop. Like, what are you doing? Are you out of your mind? A little, but you know what? It's fun. So let's see what happens. Hopefully we don't break this machine. Otherwise, I got to go back to the drawing board and fix it again. No, I think we'll be okay. And I might give it a little bit of a hand start. Maybe give it a hand start. I think so. Yeah, thank you, Christine. That's really sweet of you to say. They don't build machines to the standard that they did back in the day. I think that's a fair thing to say. They made it really pretty. It was a gorgeous machine, but once I went through and fixed it again, it was a needle bar jutting issue that happened. It popped out of position. Yeah, it worked out beautifully. And that friend of ours from the Cow Country family is all the way down in Madison, Wisconsin, and drove all the way up and waited patiently in the workshop as I broke her machine. And then I fixed it in front of her. And then we continue with another live stream sewing with that machine again. Yeah, so it was like rescue 911 type thing going. All right, blah, blah, blah. Here we go. Let's see if we can get through this. I hope we can. Here we go. Oops, I just sewed over see that? I sewed over my own thread. Hold on real quick. Let me bring that needle down. Bring that thread back. Come on, be nice. Press her foot back down. All right, let's continue. Here we go. That is probably the most crooked that I've ever sewn in a live stream. Wait till you look at it. It looks like somebody did a burnout down the road and they're like, I'm all over the place. For goodness sakes. All right. Well, and you know what? I'm impressed. We didn't do an additional bump up. Remember, the last thing we sewed was the bubblegum material. And I was a little bit concerned about the upper tension not being high enough because the lock stitching on that high vinyl content bubblegum material looked a little bit muddy. It didn't look sharp. And here we go through 2 layers of protected full grain leather. This is hardcore leather, folks. Hardcore leather. And I think we maintained some really, yeah, that's where I sewed over my own thread. Gumdrops. Hold on a second. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. Almost got it. Almost. I'm so close. Come on. There we go. Sort of, kind of. Almost got it. I fixed it on one side and I messed it up on the other. I'll stop. All right, I'll stop. Yeah, that one was fine and I messed it up. Okay, whatever. Tell you what, I'll use my Guggenheim scissors to cut that edge off so you don't see it. Close your eyes for a second. Just kidding. There we go. All right. All right, let's take a look at this. So this again is a 1980s machine. This is a 1980s machine. And it's not all metal. It's not all metal. It's a combination of metal inside and plastic. But it's still built to a good standard still in the 1980s. As I was going through this machine, it's engineered and it's built really quite well. So we just did a sew off like this. Let me show you from the side what we did. If you think that's an easy sew off, contact me. I will mail you 2 pieces of protected full grain leather like this, and you can try it on your 1980s machine. Because I never even gave this machine a hand start. It just went into it like, let's get it done. And that's probably about 6 to 8 ounces of protected full grain leather. It is hardcore. And it laid down stitching, I think, that is brag worthy. There's our top stitching right there. There's our top stitching. Not an easy sew off. Not an easy sew off at all. Look at the stitch formation. Look at the integrity of that stitch. That is like picture book. Open up a book. Look at what is a near perfect zigzag stitch. There it is. Beautiful stitching. It kind of went out of focus, but you can see how thick that stuff is. It's crazy thick. Here's our lock stitching. Here's our lock stitching. And again, I didn't sew very straight, but I tried, sort of. All right, let's check this out. Once the camera says, I'm going to focus now, here's our lock stitching. There we go. Folks, that is a beautiful, beautiful lock stitch as well, isn't it? Put my hand like that. I think that'll help. Christine from Canada is the one that sent me a message. She said, Scott, cup your hand behind it when it'll help the camera to focus. And is she right or what? It really does, doesn't it? You can see how thick that is, right? That's crazy thick. And yet this 1980s machine laid down stitching like this on protected full grain leather, 2 layers of it. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Crazy. All right, the last thing I'm going to do, and then we're going to wrap this up. Let's see. Did I do saddle grade? I didn't do. No, I did. I did elk hide. I did elk hide, and I did protected full grain. We just did that, 2 layers of that. Now we're going to do saddle grade leather to wrap this up. We'll do some saddle grade leather. This is the stuff that they make gun holsters and other stuff like that out of. It's probably about 4 or 5 ounces thick. You can see that kind of from the edge, I think. It's really hardcore. I love the smell of this stuff. Does anyone else love the smell of leather? I could be in a leather shop and just wander around most of the day. If they let me use the bathroom, I could be there all day and just smell all the leather. That's the way I am. I just love leather. So I think on this last one, we're going to stitch around the edges and then we're going to kind of work our way in. You know what I mean? Work our way in, work our way in, work our way in, work our way in, work our way, finally all the way to the middle. And that'll give me a chance to show off this great French made motor engine and also this foot controller as well, kind of doing its thing. You know what I mean? And we'll wrap up this live stream. So let me get this into position. We'll kind of go around the edges, and I'm not going to square off the edges. I'm just going to follow the edges and kind of work my way in, kind of like a sewing in the circle type thing. Now, the question is, on this final sew off, what should we stitch? What should we stitch? Should we do a good old straight stitch? Should we do a zigzag? Should we do a blind hem? Should we do a three? I love 3-point zigzags. I'm just going to tell you, but don't pick it because I said that. I love 3-point zigzags, and also I love these EKG one, this number 6. So let's type into the live chat number 6, number 5, number 4, number 3, number 2. What should we do on this final sew off, sewing in a circle on this saddle grade leather? What should we do? 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 EKG, 3-point zigzag, blind hem, regular zigzag, or straight stitch. And I'm going to probably shorten the stitch. Whatever we pick, I'm going to shorten it up a little bit so I can navigate those turns a little bit more easily so that material isn't feeding too fast. You know what I mean? But let me know what your thoughts are on that. Susie's saying number 2. So number 2 would be a straight stitch. Is that what you meant, Susie? Number 2 is a straight stitch. Number 3 is a zigzag. 4 is blind hem. 5 is 3-point zigzag. 6 is going to be the EKG. So we have one vote. If I understood Susie right, we have one vote for a straight stitch. Any other votes? Any other votes? Call now. Operators are waiting. Call now. Operators are waiting with your vote of the number of the stitch that I should sew on the final sew off. If you call now, operators are waiting. And if you call in your caller number 100 or less, you'll get a Ginsu knife as well. It kind of looks like sort of like this, but not really. Kind of like a Ginsu knife. Yeah. No other votes. All we have is a vote for a straight stitch. No other votes. Jenny is popping up. Jenny popped up. And Jenny, who ran a 60-mile race with turkeys, honest to God, she did. She ran a 60-mile race with turkeys and some of our Amish friends just before coming back to the live stream, because that's the kind of gal that she is. She voted for a 2 or a 3. So now we have 2 votes for a 2, which is a straight stitch, and we have 1 vote for a 3. So I'm going to lean towards a straight stitch at this point. All right, straight stitch, straight stitch. And now I've got to adjust my stitch length. So I'm going to shorten it up a little bit so I have a little bit more control. Go right around to the quilters. A lot of quilters will use 2.5. So I'm going to honor our quilters today with the final sew off, and I'm going to set our stitch length at 2.5. 2.5, straight stitch, final sew off. Here we go. I almost feel like I should put on polka music for our final sew off. What do y'all think? Let's put on some polka music for our final sew off. Hold on. I got it. That's boring. Give me another polka song. Come on. Oh my gosh, that's a long polka song. There we go. All right, a little bit of polka music. Here we go. That's about as far as I'm going to go. I think I made that stitch a little bit shorter than I wanted to, but that's okay. That's okay. So this is what we got. Saddle grade leather. I'll stop our music for a second. Saddle grade leather. And again, we did a straight stitch. That was the vote. And this is what we came up with. And again, we are not using a leather needle. We're not using a leather needle. And we do not have the ability to increase our presser foot pressure. So if we did, the stitch probably would have been just a little bit longer. Because again, if you don't have enough presser foot pressure, it's going to stuff the stitch a little bit, isn't it? Well, I think that is some beautiful stitching. Again, not using a leather needle and sewing a leather that is pretty doggone tough for a 1980s machine that was made collaboratively between France, Brazil, and the United States of America. And here's our lock stitch. It's going to be a little bit hard to see our lock stitching because of that nap on this saddle grade leather, but I'll get nice and close so you can kind of get a peek of it anyway. See, what I have to do is I kind of have to pull it back, don't I? Well, you get the idea. And I actually, interestingly, I sew better in a circle than I do sewing straight, don't I? Well, that is our final sew off, and we ran longer than I expected, which is okay. But I appreciate everybody persevering and being patient, and certainly engaging each other as well in the live chat and making new friends, becoming new, making new connections within the family, because that's really what it's all about, isn't it? So some beautiful sewing on that saddle grade leather. I'll go ahead and set that on the bed and grab some of the other ones we did. We also had some fun sewing on 100% cotton, some beautiful stitching on there as well that this 1980s model 6212C did. If you missed that in the beginning, there's some of that sewing right there that we did on this. Yeah. We sewed on the hardcore side as well to put that French motor to the test. And we sewed some of this genuine elk hide. You kind of see the thickness there. Beautiful stitching with that as well. We continued to really push this machine pretty doggone hard. And we went through 2 layers of protected full grain leather with a beautiful zigzag stitch all the way down and all the way back. We sewed this tricky bubblegum material and laid down some beautiful stitching there as well. And then we sewed also this semi-tricky compressed felt earlier in the live stream. Did 2 layers of that. Really quite thick stuff. A little bit hard to see, but at any rate, we laid down that EKG stitch, I think it was, and then also a standard zigzag stitch as well. Yeah. So not a mega sew off sandwich, not a mega sewing Olympics, but you know what? I think we definitely proved that a machine from the 1980s can get the job done. It definitely can get the job done. There's our sew off sandwich. Again, not crazy, but we really did cover quite a bit of territory, didn't we? Including this last sew off I did where I was messing around with saddle grade leather, again, using a non-leather needle. And we had a lot of fun laying down a really, really beautiful compressed type straight stitch on that as well, didn't we? There it is. The camera's back to saying, I worked really hard. I'm done. I'm done. But that's what we did on the saddle grade if you missed it. There it is. So on Tuesday, our next potential live stream, I'm going to present one of 2 machines. I was planning on presenting some 3010s, 2 3010s, but I might have to postpone that until Wednesday. So this coming week, we might do a live stream on Tuesday and on Wednesday. And I don't know if Wednesdays are a good day to do a live stream. It may be a horrible day, but we might have to do it this week. So watch for a live stream on Tuesday for sure. Maybe on Wednesday. I try to avoid Mondays. Mondays are just not a good day to do a live stream, right? They're not a good day. But we're going to try to do a live stream maybe 2 days this week, cover the Treadle machine that I showed you, assuming I can get everything done. This one over here. Then I'm still trying to master the treadling on. Still trying to master the treadling. I'm not a treadle master. Give it a little bit of a turn. Wait, there, I almost got it. Wait, so close. All right, now actually move the material. I don't have a needle in, but move the material for the folks. Come on, show us your thing. See if I can do it the right direction, maybe. I doubt it. I went the wrong way. Wait. All right, now I'm going to go the backwards way, just for fun. Here we go. See, it does have reverse. See, Mom? It does have reverse. Cool. All right, go the other way now. Yes. I'm starting to get this down. What do you guys think? Nope. I went the wrong way. Doggone it. Wait, help me. Go that way now. Yes. Aha! Yes. Almost got it. I'm so close. All right, I better stop while I'm ahead. So I'm going to try to present this Montgomery Ward machine on Tuesday. It's going to be from the late 1920s, early 1930s, blah, blah, blah. I might also try to sneak in this Designer One. So if we do both of them, it's going to be a huge contrast between a computerized Viking and a very, very vintage, there it is, a very vintage Montgomery Ward treadle machine with a long shuttle. It's in there somewhere. Hold on. There it is. With a long shuttle. Yeah. So it should be interesting on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, I might present those 3010s for sure. I hope, maybe. Don't bet the farm on it, but I'll give it my best. So, all right, let me rotate that so you can look at this great machine from the 1980s. And thank you again to everyone that was here during this live stream today. Kind of persevered through a lot of blah, blah, blah. Thank you to the leadership team as well that stuck it out until the very end to provide that contact and support and take care of the family. So that's it. I'll put on some polka music. I'll do my little timer eventually, and you can wrap up your conversations, and we'll bring this to a close. Yes. All right. Take care. God bless everybody, and we'll see you on Tuesday. Gonna try to put on some polka music, maybe. That's not polka music. That's more like classical music. Give me something else. No, 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 no. Real polka music. I don't know about that. No, 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 no. Come on, something else. Oh my gosh, it's a long song. Oh man, that's a vintage song. Come on. Oh yeah, there we go. Now that's real polka music. That's real polka music at last. Thank goodness. All right, no polka music. Final timer down to 60 seconds. Once I find the timer, hold on. I'm almost got it. All right, take care, everybody. Have a great. We'll see you on Tuesday morning, hopefully. Yes. And maybe Wednesday morning too. And I'm going to save all this extra stuff for our next live stream on Tuesday. We're down to about 38 seconds. I better get ready. Yes, Dr. Singer, you can come over and pose with this more contemporary Singer model. All right, what am I down to? 19 seconds, 17 seconds. We're getting close. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.